Chapter 2118. 2118 The Battle of 2118's Rise. The Dragon Palace is so powerful. They actually broke 2 9-wisp divine fire arrays. The creature with a thunder hammer and a thunder spear is also a 9-wisp divine fire god. In the void in front of Tianmu planet, all the disciples of the Northern Territory Alliance watched the battles. When they saw the Dragon Palace break 2 9-wisp divine fire arrays easily, everyone was shocked. Especially when there was a god of 9-wisp divine fire hidden in the Dragon Palace, it was beyond everyone's expectations. Hee, your Yuhuashan sect is really something. The Supreme Elder ambushed me, and you guys are also here to ambush me. You guys don't have the qualifications to destroy my Dragon Palace. Wang Xian stood in front of the dragon throne and stared at the rain demon sword god in the middle with a cold expression. No wonder you dared to kill the disciples and experts of the Yu Huatian divine sect. It turns out that there are 2 gods with 9 wisps of divine fire. The rain demon sword god's cold voice resounded in the void. He held a water blue sharp sword in his hand. Droplets of water were flowing on the sword. He stood in the void like a sharp sword that carried the power of the ocean. Sect Master Yuhua, there are 2 9-wisp divine fire gods on the other side. If they fight, we won't be able to defend against the other 9-wisp divine fire god. An old man standing beside him said in a low voice with a slightly gloomy expression. I, Rain Devil Sword God, have once killed a peak deity. 2 9-wisp divine fire gods are still not enough. Rain Devil Sword God's face revealed a ghastly expression when he heard his words. Leave the 2 gods with 9 wisps of divine fire to me. Kill the rest of them. The Rain Demon Sword God swept his gaze across the surrounding crowd. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the next moment, the long sword in his hand was pointed at Wang Xian's position. Drops of rain fell slowly from the void. The raindrops covered Wang Xian and Ao Qi tightly. Each raindrop was like a condensed missile, containing a terrifying offensive power. 1 person against 2 of us. You might not have the ability to do so. Wang Xian's body trembled as the incipient saint wings appeared on his back. The incipient saint wings, which were shrouded in brilliance, were filled with mystery and holiness. Coupled with a pair of dragon horns, Wang Xian looked like a deity from beyond the heavens. A powerful aura shook as a terrifying aura charged towards the rain demon sword god. It was a tit-for-tat fight. Everyone could feel the frozen atmosphere in the air. The strength of the Dragon Palace is truly unexpected. However, Rain Demon Sword God's strength is very terrifying. He can completely resist 2 9-wisps of divine fire god. Without the array formation, there will be a fierce battle. Even if the Yu Huatian divine sect wins, they will lose many gods. The bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company smiled when he saw this scene. Once the Rain Demon Sword God is able to tie down the Dragon King and the other 9 wisps of divine fire god, then the Dragon Palace should be destroyed in the end. After all, there is a huge difference in the number of godly state experts unless their quality completely surpasses them. The middle-aged man nodded in agreement. Their losses have nothing to do with us. There is a possibility that we will gain even more. The old man of light muttered as he floated leisurely in the air. The eyes of all the surrounding factions flickered as they stared at him. There were even some factions who were hesitating. If both sides suffered heavy losses, would they want the mantis to chase after the cicada and the oriole to catch the oriole? Kill. Destroy the Dragon Palace today. Leave no one alive. At this moment, a voice filled with killing intent rang out. Dragon King, and you, come and face your death. There are swords hidden in the water. The Rain Demon Sword God locked onto Wang Xian and Ao Qi. With a move, 2 10-meter-long raindrops with sharp swords hidden within them attacked them. You think you can challenge the 2 of us? I alone am enough. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, destroy them. A cold smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. He moved his body and the 5 elements millstone appeared in front of him. Buzz. On the 5 elements millstone, The two divine dragons roared and spewed out destructive energy that collided with the hidden sword in the water. In the void, the sound of an explosion was heard. This explosion was like a signal for battle. Kill them. We have more than 100 godly state experts. We can completely destroy them. An elder of the Yuhuashan sect roared. His blood-red eyes stared at the members of the Dragon Palace. They had 120 deities and 2 million disciples. Exterminating the Dragon Palace wouldn't be difficult. Kill. Avenge our senior and junior brothers. Boom. At this moment, the Yuhuashan sect began to move. The entire void changed. The gap is quite big. The Yuhuashan sect has 7 or 8 factions, and there are already 7 or 8 gods with just 8 wisps of divine fire. On the other hand, the Dragon Palace only has a few. A fierce battle is about to begin. Everyone held their breaths and stared in shock when they saw the war break out. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, welcome the battle and kill the enemy. Prime Minister Gue stood in front of the Dragon Palace and ordered immediately. Over 20,000 members of the Dragon Palace were floating in front of the Dragon Palace. Ao Chitian turned the ocean-pacifying needle in his hand and his eyes were full of fighting spirit. Rain Sword Sky Demon, one sword strike to kill. At this moment, Rain Demon Sword God's attack came. His attack covered the entire Dragon Palace. There were countless water swords in the water droplets that were thousands of meters in size. There were more than 100,000 water droplets. One move covered an area of 5,000 kilometers. What a terrifying move! To think that it covered such a wide area. One move can kill all living beings. When everyone around saw this move, they were shocked. Even those experts at the peak of the godly state had their eyes flashing. Yin and Yang extremes, block. Wang Xian had a solemn expression on his face. As expected of the Rain Demon Sword God, he was indeed not someone that ordinary 9 wisps of divine fire could compare to. He moved his palm and a Yin and Yang extremes diagram appeared in his hand. The Tai Chi revolved and his palm rippled. A Tai Chi diagram immediately split into over 100,000 and went straight for the hidden sword in the water droplets. Boom. The terrifying explosions and attacks made the experts from the Yuhuashan divine sect and the Dragon Palace afraid to make a move. The Yin and Yang poles completely blocked this move of his, one sword strike to kill all living beings. The Rain Demon Sword God was slightly stunned when he saw that Wang Xian had blocked this attack. Interesting, but it's still not enough. The Rain Demon Sword God moved his body and flew up to a height of 100 kilometers like a stream of water. He waved the long sword in his hand and attacked Wang Xian and Ao Qi again. Slaughter, begin. Wang Xian had a grim expression on his face. The 5 elements grinding mill flew toward the sky to block his 2 swords. He could handle the god of sword Rain Demon alone. Kill. When the members of the Dragon Palace saw Wang Xian flying to a higher height in the air, more than 20,000 disciples charged toward the Yuhuashan sect. Chapter 2119. 2119 was violent, had branches, and was undefeatable. How dare more than 20,000 people charge at us? Kill. When all the Yuhuashan sect disciples saw the 20,000 plus members of the Dragon Palace charge at them, their faces turned ice cold. More than 2 million people against more than 20,000 people. Even though the quality of the Dragon Palace disciples was much higher, they were not afraid. The difference in numbers was too great. The disciples were full of confidence in destroying the Dragon Palace. Boom. At this moment, the godly state experts at the front of the Yuhua divine sect started to move, especially the 8 gods with 8 wisps of divine fire. They raised the weapons in their hands, and terrifying energy completely enveloped all the members of the Dragon Palace. Burning sky. 1 slash to break the stars. Ice flame. Streams of terrifying energy attacked the Dragon Palace. The number isn't equal. The god of the 9 divine flames hasn't made his move yet. If Sword God Ruoyu can't force him to make his move, Yu Huashan sect will suffer a great loss. All the surrounding forces discussed this scene. Let me do it. Aochi moved when he saw the terrifying attacks of the 8 wisps of divine fire. He raised the thunder hammer in his hand and smashed it heavily into the void. Buzz! However, what shocked Aochi was that raindrops suddenly appeared around him. These raindrops quickly formed a water barrier around him, sealing Aochi inside. The blood-red energy landed on the water barrier, but it was completely blocked. Haha, a drop of water can turn into a sea of stars. Do you think I, Rain Devil Sword God, called my name for nothing? Wild laughter came from above. Aochi was slightly shocked. He looked up and met the Rain Devil Sword God's teasing gaze. When he met the Rain Devil Sword God's gaze, he was slightly shocked. As expected of the leader of a faction. Aochi said coldly. He was actually able to trap Aochi. Indeed, it is difficult to live up to his reputation. Wang Xian looked at the Rain Demon Sword God in front of him and was slightly surprised. As expected of the Rain Demon Sword God. When the raindrops fell just now, he was already prepared. The 9 wisps of divine fire god from the Dragon Palace would be trapped for at least a while. That raindrop should be one of Rain Devil Sword God's divine artifacts, the Rain Transformation World. Now, the Dragon Palace will be in trouble. Without the 9 wisps of divine fire god, it will be very difficult to defend against the attack of the Yu Huashan sect. Is this the strength of Rain Devil Sword God? He can easily tie down 2 9 wisps of divine fire god. Shocked voices rang out one after another. Everyone stared at Rain Devil Sword God in awe. Haha. A group of gods with 8 wisps of divine fire from the Yu Huatian sect laughed maniacally when they saw this scene. They stared at the attacks they released with malevolence. This attack of theirs could wipe out at least half of the people from the Dragon Palace. Some people looked over and saw the terrifying attack. They felt a moment of silence for the Dragon Palace. This time, the Dragon Palace was completely defeated. After all, it was an old force with a terrifying foundation. Thousands of spells, I'll sweep with my staff. Just when everyone thought that the Dragon Palace was about to suffer heavy losses, a violent voice resounded through the sky and earth. In front of the 8 spells released by the divine flames, a staff that seemed to be dyed red with blood appeared. The staff was 100,000 meters long. Under the augmentation of energy, it was tens of millions of kilometers long. Everyone felt a terrifying gust of wind sweep across a radius of 10 million kilometers. The 8 divine flames released by the staff were all reduced to ashes. The terrifying shockwave attacked the 2 million or so disciples of the Yu Huashan sect. What? They still have the god of 9 divine flames. Oh no! At this moment, when the 8 divine flames saw the terrifying staff, their expressions changed drastically. Weeping willow in the void. Strike the gods. Destroy the souls. Walala! Suddenly, another sound rang out. Above the 2 million plus Yu Huatian sect disciples, sharp branches appeared out of thin air. Each branch exuded a power that made one's heart palpitate. The branches swayed as they attacked the 2 million plus Yu Huatian sect disciples below. Careful, careful, attack the branches above. The terrifying thorny branches in the sky made everyone from the Yu Huashan sect panic. Some experts immediately roared. The branches that blotted out the sky fell down like poisonous snakes, causing everyone to panic. Boom, boom, boom. The 2 million disciples raised their heads in shock. They did not dare to hesitate as they unleashed their strongest attacks. In an instant, countless attacks landed on the weeping willow in the sky. This scene was extremely shocking. The 4th god of the 9 wisps of divine fire. Some forces looked at the weeping willow that covered the sky with shocked expressions. The god-level experts immediately sensed that this was the attack of the 9 wisps of divine fire. Otherwise, it would not be able to cover such a wide area. In addition to the Dragon King, the Trapped, and the staff-wielding experts, The fourth god of 9 wisps of divine fire used brambles. The 4 gods of 9 wisps of divine fire had exceeded everyone's expectations. Even the demonic god sect of the Northern Expedition Trading Company's god-burning god dynasty had a grave expression on their faces. Kill. In front of the Dragon Palace, Prime Minister Gui's orders rang out. All the experts and disciples of the Dragon Palace rushed forward when the Yuhuashan divine sect was attacked by the Ao Xingmu brambles. At the very front, more than 90 figures were exuding a majestic aura. The leader, Ao Chitian, was 5,000 meters tall. He held a cudgel that was wrapped in blood-red chains and was exuding a monstrous demonic aura. More than 90 gods, close to 100 gods. The Dragon Palace used to hide their strength, but they actually have close to 100 gods. Hiss, heavens, how can there be so many gods? Why haven't I heard of the Dragon Palace before? When the millions of people around felt such terrifying power, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Close to 80 deity realm experts had already shocked everyone, but now, the Dragon Palace's true strength had reached close to 100. As the Northern Alliance's strongest force, the Northern Expedition Trading Company only had around 40 deity realm experts. The difference was too great. With the Dragon Palace's strength, the Yu Huatian divine sect might. When the bright elder of the Northern Expedition Trading Company saw this scene, his expression turned slightly ugly. The Dragon Palace's strength had completely exceeded his expectations. Especially the violent demon monkeys and the branches that filled the sky. To the Yu Huatian divine sect, there was no solution at all. We'll have to rely on that rain demon sword god. If he can't kill 4 people of the same level by himself, the Yu Huatian divine sect will definitely perish. Damn it, where did this Dragon Palace come from? The old man muttered with a gloomy face. Such a powerful Dragon Palace had completely exceeded his expectations. Not only him, but the millions of people around him were also smacked in the face. The violent demon monkeys and the branches that filled the sky were simply unsolvable. Chapter 21:20. 21:20 was furious, and the branches were unbreakable. Not good. Block the front. Block the experts of the Dragon Palace. When Yu Huashan's sect saw the experts of the Dragon Palace attacking, their expressions changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with fear, and their expressions were extremely ugly. A god with 9 wisps of divine fire released a sky full of branches, and if they were not careful, they would be killed by the branches. Facing the god with 9 wisps of divine fire, everyone had to be alert. However, at this time, more than 20,000 members of the Dragon Palace and nearly 100 godly state experts attacked under the leadership of the second god with 9 wisps of divine fire. How could they resist? Just 2 gods with 9 wisps of divine fire could kill them all. At this moment, the hearts of more than 2 million people of the Yu Huatian divine sect were beating violently. Boom! However, before they could react, Ao Chitian's rod had already swept over. Oh no! The faces of the gods from the Yu Huatian sect who were at the forefront changed drastically. Use your divine kingdom to block the brambles above. A god with 8 wisps of divine fire hurriedly shouted. In an instant, the bodies of the 120 god realm experts trembled, and their divine kingdoms directly appeared in the sky above the Yu Huatian sect. One divine kingdom after another appeared in the sky above the Yu Huatian divine sect, and an incomparably powerful divine light enveloped an area of 10 million kilometers. The hundreds of divine kingdoms looked abnormally spectacular and shocking. More than 100 divine kingdoms blocked Ao Xingmu's thorny attack. Boom! But at this moment, the terrifying blood-red chain-covered cudgel swept over from the front. It carried an incomparably terrifying wave of air as it swept towards the Yu Hua divine sect. The gods' expressions changed slightly. They used all of their strength to block the terrifying staff. Boom! 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 In an instant, over 20 gods were sent flying. They spat out a large amount of blood, and over a dozen died on the spot. Over 100,000 demigod disciples died under the impact of the wave of air. This was caused by the fact that the 120 gods had blocked most of the attacks. Hiss! Everyone from the Yu Huashan sect was shocked when they saw this. The group of god-level experts held their weapons tightly as their bodies trembled. You are the ones who will die if you want to destroy our Dragon Palace. Less than a second later, the group of experts from the Dragon Palace followed closely behind. Defend! All the God Realm experts from the Yu Huashan Divine sect shouted again. 4 gods with 9 divine flames. Damn it, didn't the Northern Expedition Trading Company say they only had 1? In the sky, Rain Demon Sword God's expression instantly turned ugly when he saw the miserable screams of the disciples below. His gaze swept toward the Northern Expedition Trading Company, his eyes filled with cold, killing intent. Hold on for 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, I will kill them and then get rid of the other 3. The Rain Demon Sword God shouted with confidence. He stared at Wang Xian and stabbed the rain sword in his hand toward Wang Xian. Rain Demon Sword, 1 strike to kill the god. A low roar came out from his mouth. An incomparably bright and sharp sword attacked Wang Xian. A sword was surrounded by raindrops. It was only 10 meters in size, but the energy it contained was terrifying. The Rain Demon Sword God is so confident. He actually has the confidence to kill the Dragon King in 3 minutes. When everyone around heard the Rain Demon Sword God's voice, their expressions changed slightly. They were shocked by his confidence. Killing a person of the same level in 3 minutes. I wonder how he did it. Some people thought to themselves, not good. The Rain Demon Sword God thought that our Northern Expedition Trading Company was deliberately setting them up. This is a little... The bright elder of the Northern Expedition Trading Company sensed the expression of the Rain Demon Sword God. He raised his eyebrows slightly and muttered to himself as he calculated in his heart, "Kill me in 3 minutes." When Wang Xian heard the words of the Rain Demon Sword God, a cold smile appeared on his face. "Then I would like to experience your strength." As Wang Xian spoke, his gaze was fixed on the 10-meter-long god-slaying sword. He flapped his wings slightly. But when the god-slaying sword was about 10,000 meters away from Wang Xian, he moved slightly and dodged to the side. Whoosh! However, under the control of the Rain Demon Sword God, the sharp sword continued to pursue Wang Xian. The speed is a little slow. Wang Xian had a mocking expression on his face. When the sword was about to reach him again, he flapped his uninitiated holy wings and easily dodged it, creating a distance of 50 kilometers. What a fast speed! When the god of sword Rain Demon saw that Wang Xian easily dodged the sword's pursuit, his expression changed slightly. With a cold expression, he waved his arm again, and the same 5 swords appeared one after another. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A total of 6 god-slaying swords attacked Wang Xian, wanting to surround him. "Let me show you my strength." Wang Xian retracted his uninitiated holy wings and attacked the god of sword Rain Demon directly. With a move of his arm, the dragon blood sword appeared in his hand. "You're courting death." With a wave of his arm, 6 god-slaying swords attacked Wang Xian. However, the speed of the sharp swords was nothing to Wang Xian. He shifted his body slightly and easily dodged the attacks of the sharp swords. At the same time, he waved the dragon blood sword in his hand. Streams of sword rays that were destroyed attacked him. This speed. The expression of the god of sword Rain Demon gradually turned ugly. He raised the long sword in his hand and blocked the attacks. When he blocked the attack, the other 6 swords lost control. Torrent. The god of sword Rain Demon easily blocked Wang Xian's attack 3 times in a row. His body was like a torrent. He drew a water blue mark and met Wang Xian head-on. Wang Xian was not afraid at all. The dragon blood sword in his hand was covered by the 7-colored energy. The 7-colored sword ray shone for thousands of miles and slashed down heavily. Bang! The sound of sharp swords clashing could be heard. The 2 of them were evenly matched in their attacks. How is this possible? The raindrop sword in my hand was not damaged after clashing with it. The god of rain demon sword's arm trembled and his expression became increasingly ugly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, numerous chains were moving along the dragon blood sword towards him. Break it for me. Water can pierce through stone. The raindrop sword in his hand vibrated and the raindrops hit the chains. Buzz. The light of yin and yang flashed across the chains and continued to move towards his long sword. Dragon Claw. At this moment, Wang Xian raised his left hand and used the shape of a dragon claw to cover the rain demon sword god. It was a dragon claw that was at least 1,000 meters in size. The surface of the claw was thick and heavy. The terrifying energy seemed to be indestructible. It directly clawed at Rain Devil Sword God. What terrifying claws! Sensing the surging energy coming from the dragon claw, Rain Devil Sword God's expression completely changed. The opponent's strength was very terrifying. His terrifying speed and terrifying attack methods. If he wanted to kill him, it would be difficult. Thinking of this, his heart sank. Surging torrent, the one who goes against it becomes a god. Rain Demon Sword God roared, a torrent from the bottom up against the current, forming a strong defense. Chapter 21-21 21-21-21-21 Who will kill who? Boom! A violent collision sound rang out in the void. The faces of the millions of people who had been watching the battle changed slightly when they saw this situation. That Dragon King's strength and speed are so terrifying. Rain Devil Sword God is completely helpless against him. He's passively defending. It's absolutely impossible for Rain Devil Sword God to kill the Dragon King in 3 minutes. His speed is too fast, and his attacks are also very terrifying. This Dragon King is not simple. Rain Demon Sword God's words just now were a slap in the face. Looking at the two people in the air who were almost evenly matched, everyone's expression changed again. Rain Demon Sword God's strength and title were created by himself. There was no doubt about his strength. Even when Rain Demon Sword God said that he would kill the Dragon King in 3 minutes, everyone believed him and waited for his great killing move and wonderful performance. However, the result was completely out of their expectations. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace was not afraid at all and was not weak at all. You want to kill me in 3 minutes? It's not certain who will kill who. Wang Xian's Dragon Claw landed heavily on top of Reverse Flow. Feeling the strong defense, he held the Dragon Claw tightly. Under the Dragon Claw, Reverse Flow slowly retracted. Splash! His body trembled slightly and he retreated backward like flowing water, avoiding Wang Xian's attack. A hint of seriousness appeared on his face. What a fast speed! His speed is not slower than mine. In fact, he is even faster. The eyes of the bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company narrowed slightly when he saw this scene. His expression changed slightly as he frowned slowly. Break for me! Aochi's roar was heard from the side, accompanied by the sound of breaking. The blood-red energy in his entire body churned around as the 3 Goyu in his pupils rotated slowly. Aochi's strange blood-red pupils locked onto the Rain Demon Sword God in the void. Dragon King, this humble subject is here to help you. Aochi let out a low roar as an explosive thunder sounded beside him. In an instant, his figure disappeared and reappeared beside Wang Xian. His arms, which were like thunder hammers and thunder spears, smashed heavily into the void. Goyu flew out from his eyes and landed on his 2 arms. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, streams of terrifying Goyu blood-red energy attacked the Rain Demon Sword God. 5 elements grinding. Wang Xian smiled when he saw Aochi charging over. Naturally, he had no objections to joining forces to fight against the Rain Demon Sword God. Bang, bang, bang. The Rain Demon Sword God's expression changed slightly when he saw Aochi's strange attack. He waved the rain sword in his hand and slashed forward. Every time he slashed, his body could not help but take a step back. After he blocked Aochi's attack, he retreated dozens of kilometers. Rain Demon Sword God's breathing was a little hurried, and his face was extremely gloomy. Roar! At this moment, the 5 divine dragons above the enormous 5 elements grinding mill roared, and streams of gray energy covered Rain Demon Sword God. His face changed again. Rain Demon Sword, slash the sky with one sword. Rain Demon Sword God roared, and his face was extremely ugly. A sharp sword that was hundreds of thousands of meters long appeared, slashing towards the 5 elements grinding mill. Boom! A terrifying collision sound rang out. The sharp sword slashed onto the 5 elements grinding mill, causing it to fly back hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Ah, Sect Master, save us. At this moment, miserable cries rang out. His breathing was somewhat hurried as his gaze swept downwards. There was a massacre going on down there. It was a one-sided massacre. In the beginning, the 120 godly state experts and 2 million disciples could easily crush the Dragon Palace. However, the situation was completely reversed. The 2 9 wisps of divine fire completely changed the situation of the battle. The sky was filled with branches that hung in the air and kept on reaping lives down there. The violent and terrifying sticks swept across a radius of 1,000,000 miles. The gods of the Yuhuashan sect were dying at a terrifying speed. 3 minutes had passed. Out of the 120 gods, 60 had died. Out of the 2 million disciples, less than 1,000,000 had died. It was a one-sided war. In 10 minutes at most, the Yuhuashan sect would be completely annihilated in this void. Damn it, damn it. The Rain Demon Sword God saw the scene below and his face was burning with rage. He stared at Wang Xian and Aochi in a frenzy. Northern Expedition Trading Company, didn't you say that their Dragon Palace only has one god of 9 wisps of divine fire? Didn't you say there are only 80 god-level powerhouses? All of a sudden, the Rain Demon Sword God turned his head abruptly and stared at the Northern Expedition Trading Company. His blood-red eyes were cold as he roared. What? The sudden change caused the surrounding millions of people to be slightly startled. Some factions' eyes flickered as they looked at the Northern Expedition Trading Company's position. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Bastard! When the old man heard Rain Demon Sword God's sudden question, anger appeared on his face. His expression changed slightly. His words were to drag the Northern Expedition Trading Company into the water. However, after witnessing the Dragon Palace's strength, the Northern Expedition Trading Company could not enter the water so easily. That Dragon King's speed was completely beyond his expectations. Even if he were to make a move himself, it would be very difficult for him to stop him. In addition to the nearly 100 godly state experts, even if the Northern Expedition Trading Company were to suffer a great loss, it would still suffer a great loss. This was not in line with the purpose of their trading company. Our Northern Expedition Trading Company did not ask you to attack the Dragon Palace. Don't speak without evidence and slander us. Don't blame our Northern Expedition Trading Company for not showing any mercy. Sensing the gazes around him, the Elder of Light snorted coldly and threatened coldly. The Rain Demon Sword God stared at the Elder of Light with his slightly red eyes. He clenched his fists tightly and felt extremely aggrieved. But all of you die. He roared furiously and attacked Wang Xian and Aochi. Dragon King, I'll trap him. Aochi shouted loudly and blood-red chains appeared behind him. The dense chains slowly covered a radius of 100 kilometers. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. With a wave of his arm, the 5 elements millstone appeared above his head. The poles of yin and yang were suspended below him. Search for enemies in the void and trap them. Aochi let out a loud roar. The dense blood-red chains wrapped around the Rain Demon Sword God. 5 elements millstone trap. Wang Xian shouted at the same time. The millstone began to operate. The 3 divine dragons of earth, water, and wood attributes shone brightly. Spells filled with restraints were cast towards the Rain Demon Sword God. Wang Xian was confident that no one in the entire universe could withstand an opponent of the same level as the Berserk Dragon. Today, I will let you guys see who will kill who. Wang Xian revealed a sinister expression. With the 5 elements grinding on his head, he stepped on the yin and yang poles and dashed towards the rain demon sword god. Chapter 21-22. 21-22 annihilated the unexpected intruders. Who would kill who? Millions of people looked at the battlefield in the void, their eyes shining. In this situation, the Dragon Palace had the upper hand. At first, the Rain Demon Sword God arrogantly said that he could kill the Dragon King in 3 minutes, but it had become a joke. Facing the Dragon Palace alone, the Rain Demon Sword God couldn't gain any advantage, not to mention that there was an expert from the Dragon Palace. In a 2-on-1 situation, would the Rain Demon Sword God be able to block it? Voila! In the air, countless blood-red chains covered the Rain Demon Sword God. The chains were densely packed, and each of them was half a meter thick. If one was completely entangled by so many chains, it would be difficult for one to escape. Wang Xian controlled the 5 elements grinding mill to lock onto the Rain Demon Sword God. The Primalist Saint wings on his back fluttered as he exerted his speed to the maximum. Wang Xian, who was moving at an extreme speed, was completely incomparable to the Rain Demon Sword God. In other words, if Wang Xian wanted to fight him, he wouldn't be able to escape. If Wang Xian wanted to escape, he wouldn't be able to catch up to him. In the battle, Wang Xian was already in an invincible position. Who will kill who? The Rain Demon Sword God growled with an embarrassed expression when he saw Wang Xian and the chains that covered the sky that were attacking him. His cold eyes locked onto Wang Xian completely. The raindrop sword in his hand almost condensed into a stream of water. At this moment he could no longer escape. All he could do was to fight for his life. Kill! He growled in a low voice. Instantly, a torrential rain started to fall within a radius of a few hundred kilometers. A gigantic sword appeared in the sky. There were mountains and rivers on this sword. These were not carved on it, but real mountains and rivers. This sword was his divine kingdom. Wang! In an instant, a rain field appeared out of thin air beneath the horrifying huge sword divine kingdom. The raindrops became faster and faster. Gradually, the raindrops turned into rain swords, and the entire area was completely covered by the rain swords. The rain swords were very small, only the size of a thumb. However, they were lifelike as if they were real sharp swords. Heavenly Rain Sword Domain. I once used this move to kill an expert at the peak of the godly state. I want to see who will kill who today. Rain Demon Sword God let out a low roar, and his body emitted a transcendent aura. Under this aura, the surrounding sword domain did not lose out to the aura of some experts at the peak of the godly state. Using the divine kingdom, is this Rain Demon Sword God's strongest move? Everyone was slightly shocked when they saw this scene. The raindrops turned into rain swords within 100 kilometers. This terrifying control power shocked everyone. Heavenly Rain Sword Domain. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. His entire body was covered by the yin-yang and 5 elements ohms. The binding force of the 5 elements grinding had already descended. Pa 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 pa. When waves of energy entered the Heavenly Rain Sword Domain, the sharp swords landed on the energy and slowly pierced through it. Wang Xian was slightly shocked. A hint of surprise appeared on his face. Crash! At this moment, the densely packed blood-red chains entered the Heavenly Rain Sword Domain. Crack, crack, crack. An even more intense collision sound rang out. The sharp swords landed on the blood-red chains, causing numerous cracks to appear, and the chains were cut off. However, there were too many chains. They continued to surge in crazily and wound around the Rain Demon Sword God. I would like to see if your sword domain is stronger or my 7 luminary space is stronger. Wang Xian took this opportunity to wave his arm toward the sky. The 5 elements millstone flew toward the sky above the giant sword divine kingdom, while the yin and yang poles flew toward the area below. In an instant, the 5 elements millstone and the yin and yang poles hovered above and below the sky rain sword domain. Break for me! At this moment, an ice-cold roar was heard. Rain Devil Sword God was floating in the middle. When he saw the densely packed blood-red chains, he waved the raindrop sword in his hand. The rain sword within a radius of 100 kilometers was guided and directly attacked the chains. Bang bang bang! The intense collision caused the chains to quickly collapse. The densely packed blood-red chains disappeared at a terrifying speed. So powerful! The millions of people who were watching watched in astonishment. The rain swords were endless. No matter how many chains there were, they would be destroyed. Space of 7 elements. At this moment, Wang Xian let out a soft shout and flapped his 7-colored wings. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, 5 divine dragons roared and emitted rays of light. Below, the yin and yang poles suddenly rose slowly, and a 7-colored spatial domain slowly surrounded the sky rain sword domain. Oh! Rain Demon Sword God saw the 7-colored light that suddenly enveloped him. He was slightly shocked and looked over. A domain similar to my sky rain sword domain. A trace of seriousness appeared on his face, followed by a sinister smile. Then I would like to experience it. Clang, clang, clang. He let out a wild roar, and the entire area was filled with the metallic clang of the water sword. Crack, crack, crack. The 7-colored radiance slowly descended and collided with the sky rain sword domain. A terrifying friction was created. Earth conquers water. Wang Xian let out a low roar. His body moved and he charged into the space of 7 elements. At the same time, the space of 7 luminaries slowly turned into a grayish color. Some earthy yellow energy was eroding towards the heavenly rain sword domain. The soil entered the water and caused the water sword to slowly lose control. What? At this moment, the expression of the god of sword rain demon changed drastically. Kill him! He immediately roared and the remaining rain swords charged towards Wang Xian. Buzz! Wang Xian waved his arm and an incomparably huge wall appeared in front of him. Countless rain swords landed on the wall and were slowly eroded by the earth attribute. If you don't have any moves, you can die. Wang Xian's cold voice rang out as the 7 luminaries space began to compress. Look, the heavenly rain sword domain of the rain demon sword god is actually being compressed. Is the victor going to be decided? That dragon king is so powerful. He isn't any weaker than the rain demon sword god. All the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect have basically been killed. This time, the Yu Huatian sect is completely defeated. When everyone saw this scene, their expressions changed slightly. At the side, only a dozen of the 120 gods had been killed. If Rain Devil Sword God was killed, this terrifying battle would come to an end. They are still in the mood to fight amongst themselves. Many gods have died. Damn it, what a waste. If Yaoxia had attacked from this place, none of them would have survived. Now they are still fighting amongst themselves. Let's go. The entire Northern Alliance should be here. It will save us a lot of time. Just as everyone was paying attention to the battle on the battlefield, more than 10 figures flew over from the rear. In the middle were 2 old men surrounded by 10 youths. Chapter 21-23 21-23 2123 The Requisition of Eternal Thunderbolts. Die! In the space of 7 elements, Wang Xian stared at the rain demon sword god with a face full of killing intent. The space of 7 elements completely suppressed the heavenly rain sword domain. In the entire space of 7 elements, the rain demon sword god was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. No, the rain demon sword god, actually died at the hands of someone of the same level. I don't believe it. The rain demon sword god waved the long sword in his hand with a face full of unwillingness and attacked Wang Xian. Boom, boom, boom. With a thought, Wang Xian gathered the dragon claws around the rain demon sword god and attacked him. After entering the space of 7 elements, one could either escape or defend against the 7 elements. Otherwise, one would face endless attacks. Bang, bang, bang. The huge dragon claws landed on his sword and his body, causing his expression to change drastically. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his body was sent flying. Boom, boom, boom. Following that, continuous attacks landed on his body. Wang Xian quietly hovered in the space of 7 luminaries and watched his death and fall. But 10 seconds later, the space of 7 luminaries slowly disappeared. There was a corpse floating in the air. When he died, he didn't scream too much. He was considered a man. He said, "Rain Devil Sword God is dead." So fast, Rain Devil Sword God was killed by the Dragon King. Yu Huashan sect is finished. 120 gods were killed. When the 7 luminaries space disappeared and everyone saw the Dragon King with 7 colored wings and 2 horns standing proudly in the air, they were slightly shocked. They looked at the corpse beside them, their eyes flashing with a luster. It's over. It's really unexpected. This Dragon Palace and the Dragon King. The bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company watched and muttered softly. He swept his gaze across the experts from the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King in the air, revealing a trace of solemnity. Not far away, the experts from the God-Burning God Dynasty and the Demonic God sect also revealed fearful expressions. The strength of the Dragon Palace could indeed cause them to be fearful. This battle of the Dragon Palace has completely established their strength and status in the northern region. Some disciples looked at the battlefield with reverence. The Yu Huashan Divine sect had a total of 120 gods and 2 million demigod level and above disciples. All of them had been killed by the Dragon Palace. This battle had shaken the northern region. In the entire Northern Territory Alliance, only the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the Enchanting Divine sect could contend with them. No other faction was a match for the Dragon Palace. Your Northern Territory Alliance is really boring. You all have the time to fight and kill here. It's great that you have so much energy. At this moment, an arrogant voice slowly sounded, covering an area of several thousand kilometers. Ugh. The voice suddenly attracted everyone's attention. Some God Realm experts of the Northern Territory Alliance looked over, their eyes revealing a cold expression. That is. However, when everyone looked over and saw the 12 figures walking over from the void, their pupils constricted slightly. 2 old men stood in the middle. There was a purple heart-protecting mirror on their chests, and on the heart-protecting mirror was written a large God word. There were 10 young men around them. They were wearing special clothing, family clothing. Eternal Thunderclap. Those 2 old men are the Thunder God of Eternal Thunderclap. Some people looked at the 2 old men in the middle with shock on their faces. Thunder God was the name given by the Thunder God Lord to the peak stage Eternal Thunderclap. Once one reached the peak stage of the deity realm, they could be called the Thunder Gods. This was a very honorable title. In the entire northern region, Thunder God possessed great authority and prestige. No one dared to provoke him. And no one dared to provoke him. Greetings, Thunder God. The old man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company was the first to react. He cupped his hands toward the 2 old men from Eternal Thunder God. Greetings, Lord Thunder God. Those experts whose strength had not reached the peak of the deity realm immediately bowed. In the Northern Expedition Trading Company, there are 40 godly state experts and 2 peak of the godly state experts apart from Eternal Shocking Thunder's strongest faction. I'll recruit them. My younger brothers and sisters don't have any objections, right? Beside the old man, a long-haired young man with an imposing bearing and a proud expression held a folding fan in his hand. He looked indifferently at the young men and women around him as he spoke. Eternal Shocking Lightning and his group of 12 people completely ignored everyone from the Northern Region Alliance. However, his words caused everyone from the Northern Region Alliance to be shocked. Their eyes were filled with shock. Requisition? What did he mean? Big Brother's strength is stronger than ours. This time, it's naturally up to Big Brother to choose. However, I'll requisition the demonic god sect. I'll be the second one to choose. You guys don't have any objections, right? At the side, a burly youth holding a thunderhammer immediately spoke up. The other young men and women didn't speak. It was clear that they tacitly agreed. Since Seventh Brother has chosen the enchanting divine sect, then I'll choose the god-burning divine dynasty. A youth with a long spear on his back laughed loudly as he spoke. All right, it should be my turn next. Among the group of young men, one of the two ladies took a step forward. She looked at Wang Xian, who was in the void, and swept her gaze across all the members of the Dragon Palace. A look of pleasant surprise appeared on her face. I'll take this faction. If I'm not wrong, this is the Dragon Palace. They destroyed the Dragon Palace of the Tianyang Divine Dynasty. However, it's obvious that there are some unexpected surprises this time. She narrowed her eyes and smiled, revealing 2 dimples. Oh, that's not right. The Yu Huashan sect seems to have been destroyed. The 5 strongest factions that we agreed on are now missing 1. However, at this moment, a delicate-looking young man's expression changed slightly. His expression slowly turned ugly. It seems to be true. Lei Tianxing, your luck seems to be a little bad. The young man holding the folding fan said with a smile. What are they doing? When everyone in the Northern Region Alliance saw Eternal Thunderclap and the other young men picking and choosing among themselves, their expressions changed slightly. All of them frowned. The strongest experts of the Northern Expedition Trading Company's God-burning god dynasty also frowned. They had a bad premonition in their hearts. Young masters of Eternal Thunderclap, may I know what you are doing? The bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company hesitated for a moment before asking. The Order of the Eternal God Lord. Now that the Northern Region has been invaded by the Demon Cave, all the Northern Region's factions are to resist the Demon Cave together. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy. An elder's dignified gaze swept over everyone from the Northern Region Alliance as he coldly said, "What?" At this moment, everyone's expressions changed drastically, their faces filled with shock and embarrassment. Mobilize all of your forces and enter the front lines. Northern Expedition Trading Company, call your guild leader and follow this young Master To establish undying feats. The first youth to speak stepped forward and directly ordered the Northern Expedition Trading Company. The old man's heart sank, and his expression changed drastically. I dare not disobey the Eternal God Lord's orders. Greetings, young Master Lei Beichen. Chapter 21-24 21-24 on the arrogant Lei Dongxue. I dare not disobey the order of the Eternal God Lord. Greetings, young Master Lei Beichen. The old man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company respectfully called out, his voice reverberating throughout the entire voids. Lei Beichen, the strongest expert of the current generation of Eternal Shocking Thunder youths, had ignited 4 wisps of divine fire at such a young age. He was extremely famous throughout the entire Northern region. The bright old man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company naturally recognized him. The Northern Expedition Trading Company did not dare to remain silent in the face of his words. In a short span of 10 seconds, he had already figured it out. Clearly, the Thunder God Lord wanted to gather the strength of the entire Northern region and head to the front lines to fight against the Demon Lair. The main reason was to reduce Eternal Shocking Thunder's losses and make them cannon fodder. Even if he understood, he did not dare to resist in the slightest. Unless they immediately fled from the Northern region, it was just as the Thunder God had said, those who disobeyed would die. Their foundation was here, how could they dare to escape? Moreover, there were 2 Thunder Gods in front of them personally. The God-burning God dynasty greets young Master Lei Donglin. The Enchanting God sect greets young Master Lei Tianming. The eyes of the strongest experts from the God-burning God dynasty and the Enchanting God sect flashed with helplessness. Seeing that the Northern Expedition Trading Company had submitted, they had no choice but to express their stance. They immediately bowed to the other two young men respectfully. When the surrounding millions of disciples saw this scene, a look of shock appeared on their faces. They looked at the group of young men in the air with a look of reverence. Lei Beichen, Lei Donglin, Lei Tianming, and the other two had looks of satisfaction on their faces as they nodded with smiles on their faces. "Oh, but where's your dragon palace?" The lady who was asking for the dragon palace looked at Wang Xian, who was in the air, and raised her eyebrows slightly. Eternal thunderclap. Wang Xian frowned slightly when he heard the lady's words. Everyone in the surroundings looked at him. Listen to this young lady's instructions. Wang Xian cupped his hands to the lady expressionlessly and said, You don't know me?" The lady raised her head slightly and her face was filled with arrogance. "The Dragon Palace is small and insignificant. I'm sorry, ladies around." Wang Xian shook his head. He really didn't know this lady in front of him. "Remember my name, Lei Dongxue. From now on, your Dragon Palace will follow me and listen to my commands." Lei Dongxue said faintly. As the most outstanding member of Eternal Thunderclap's generation, she had a face that could topple countries and cities, as well as stunning talent. Her name was definitely a well-known existence in the entire Eternal Thunderclap. "Wait, the Yu Huatian divine sect has been destroyed by you." At the side, Lei Tianxing stared at Wang Xian with an extremely embarrassed expression as he questioned in a low voice. "Leave none of them alive." Wang Xian looked at the young man with an expressionless face. "Damn it." Lei Tianxing's face revealed a stern expression as a terrifying killing intent shot out from his entire body. He stared at Wang Xian with a face full of anger. "Brother Tianxing, you can't blame others for your bad luck." Lei Dongxue sensed his killing intent and reminded him lightly. "The Yu Huashan sect belongs to me to begin with. This little dragon palace will destroy it. Those who don't know are innocent." Lei Tianxing said with a cold expression, but he was easily resolved by Lei Dongxue. "Lei Dongxue." Lei Tianxing's expression changed drastically. He knew that he was really unlucky this time. As the fifth-ranked young generation in this eternal shocking thunder competition, he could have chosen the fifth-ranked faction in the northern region. Everyone knew that apart from Eternal Thunderclap, only 5 other factions were relatively stronger. However, the fifth faction was destroyed by the Dragon Palace. This was very disadvantageous for them to earn merit points in the future. It must be known that if they could get a huge amount of merit points to fight against the Devil Den this time, not only would they be able to increase their position, but they would also be able to greatly increase their strength and obtain divine weapons. Now, he could only choose the weaker factions. "Follow the rules." Lei Dongxue looked at him with a smile. "The Yu Huashan sect originally belonged to me. Now that they have been destroyed, I want to take over all the resources of the Yu Huashan sect." Lei Tianxing growled with a gloomy face. "This won't do. The Yu Huashan sect was killed by our Dragon Palace. It won't be that easy to kill 2 gods of 9 wisps of divine fire. We won't hand over the spoils of war. Furthermore, you want to plunder our resources. Do you want us to do our best to help you?" Wang Xian immediately said when he heard his words. What a joke! How was it possible to hand over the resources of the Yu Huashan sect and the other 7 factions? The Dragon Palace had destroyed the Yu Huashan sect and the other 7 factions this time. How huge were the resources? This was a faction that had stood here for hundreds of thousands of years. Even 2 divine empires of the Sky Center could not compare to it. These resources were the key to Wang Xian igniting the 4th wisp of divine fire. It was also the key to him being able to possess the strength at the peak of the godly state. How could he allow Lei Tianxing to obtain it? Even if the other party was the disciple of Eternal Thunderclap. A horse without grass is not fat. This is what the Dragon Palace deserves. Lei Dongxue continued to speak from the side. Lei Tianxing stared at Wang Xian. His eyes were sparkling. Finally, he swept his gaze at Lei Dongxue. His face was livid and he didn't say another word. He. Lei Beichen and the rest smiled faintly and didn't say a word. We have chosen the other factions. The other 5 young men spoke as they looked at all the factions in the Northern Alliance. Very soon, the young men selected the factions one by one. None of the factions dared to resist. This was an order from Eternal Shocking Thunder. This is not only a good thing but also a bad thing. This feeling is a little unpleasant. Wang Xian hovered in the air and ordered Prime Minister Gui and the rest to clean up the battlefield quickly. He frowned slightly. The sudden appearance of Eternal Shocking Thunder had made them follow the younger generation of Eternal Shocking Thunder. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, there was no way they could resist it. They could only follow the current course of action. He was a little worried that if he encountered an expert from the Eternal Shocking Thunder energy tide, his identity might be exposed. At that time, the Dragon Palace would be in danger. Dragon Palace, I will follow you to the Yu Huashan sect's territory to see if there are any treasures that I can use. At this moment, Lei Dongxue flew over and said to Wang Xian with an unquestionable tone. Wang Xian frowned slightly but still nodded his head. This time, Lei Dongshue's luck is really good. If I had known in advance, I might have chosen the Dragon Palace. This time, Lei Dongxue picked up a loophole. The strength of this Dragon Palace is even stronger than the God-burning Empire. Damn it. From the side, Lei Donglin, Lei Tianming, and the rest saw this and revealed envious looks on their faces. If they had known in advance, they would have chosen the Dragon Palace. Especially now that the Dragon Palace had destroyed the Yuhua divine sect. This place contained enormous treasures. Even to them, it was a supreme treasure. In the past, Lei Dongxue looked down on other men. If we let her obtain some more treasures to increase her power, she would look down on us even more. The nearby youths thought to themselves. Chapter 21-25. 21-25 Under the arrogant Lei Dongxue. I want this divine artifact and these divine herbs and divine fruits. With these treasures, it won't be long before I can ignite 4 wisps of divine fire. At that time, even Lei Beichen will be defeated by my hands. At a place where the mountains on Yu Hua planet overlapped, countless mountains were enveloped by a hazy aura. It was filled with a fairyland. At the highest peak in the center, Lei Dongshue's eyes were sparkling as she looked at the treasures in Yu Hua Divine Sect's treasury. With a wave of her arm, she took a few of the most precious divine herbs, divine fruits, and divine weapons in her hands. She looked at everything with a smile on her face. Wang Xian stood at the side and looked at the things that she wanted. A hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. Miss Lei Dongxue, aren't you taking a little too many things? Wang Xian said to her calmly. But, do you have a problem with that? Now that your Dragon Palace has been requisitioned, to put it bluntly, you have to give me anything I want. Besides, if I didn't speak up for you, do you think you would be able to obtain these treasures? She looked at Wang Xian calmly. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, revealing a beautiful curve. Are you, Eternal Thunderclap, trying to use us as slaves? Wang Xian looked at him and asked calmly. This means that all of you are still valuable. In this situation, the entire northern region has to listen to the orders of Eternal Thunderclap. Follow me and let me be satisfied. The later stage will be very beneficial to all of you. Do you know that if all of you are disobedient, I can order all of you to charge at the forefront when we reach the front line? Lei Dongxue stared at Wang Xian with a burning gaze. His face was filled with coldness and mockery. The main purpose of the young generation competition held by Eternal Thunderclap this time was to nurture the future pillar of Eternal Thunderclap, the future Thunder God. There were no rewards for the competition. The only reward was the right to control the other factions in the northern region. This was a huge right. Similarly, this reward was also very generous. It was so generous that countless outstanding disciples of the current generation would risk their lives for it. This was because once you had the right to control these powers, you could mobilize the resources and power of this power. This would be a huge advantage for them to accumulate merits. Wang Xian's heart sank when he heard her words. A faint killing intent surged up. A god who only had 3 wisps of divine fire actually dared to threaten him. However, Wang Xian really couldn't do anything about it at the moment. The other party was the outstanding disciple of Eternal Thunderclap. If he really killed him, he wouldn't need Eternal Thunderclap to do anything. If all the forces in the entire northern region were to join forces, they would be able to cause great losses to the Dragon Palace. This was also the reason why Lei Dongxue dared to follow them here alone. They had nothing to fear because they knew that no one would harm their outstanding Eternal Thunderclap disciples. The other factions in the northern region might seem glorious, but they had no ability to resist Eternal Thunderclap. Endure! Wang Xian suppressed the anger in his heart. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, he could only endure. He didn't say anything and ordered Prime Minister Gue to get the rest of the treasures. He. Lei Dongxue could feel Wang Xian's dissatisfaction, but she didn't care at all. So what if she was dissatisfied? Following that, Wang Xian and the rest headed to the other 7 forces. Those 7 forces were all gods who possessed 7 or 8 wisps of divine fire. Each of them had a heritage that spanned hundreds of thousands of years. The treasures they controlled were worth a lot of money. Even Lei Dongxue was moved when she saw them. Her eyes were filled with passion and greed. All the items that she could use and that she had her eyes on were all kept by her. Wang Xian watched all of this in silence. Let's go and take a look at your Dragon Palace. After cleaning up the treasures of the 8 factions, Lei Dongxue said arrogantly to Wang Xian. Why are you going to the Dragon Palace? Wang Xian's heart sank as he asked Lei Dongxue. Of course, I'm going to count the soldiers. I want to understand the soldiers under me. I'm going to your headquarters. I know it should be your divine kingdom. Lei Dongxue said to Wang Xian directly. I can summon the Dragon Palace directly. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before saying. There's no need. A few of my friends also want to go to your place. I'm very curious about what kind of planet could give birth to such a force with so many gods. Lei Dongxue refused. He looked at him and said, Let's go. We'll head there immediately. Time is of the essence. Wang Xian stood there and didn't reply. He frowned slightly. Don't waste time. Lei Dongxue looked at him with a burning gaze and emphasized again. All right, let's go. Wang Xian nodded and gestured to the members of the Dragon Palace around him. Let's go to Planet Liberty first. I want to gather with a few friends. As she spoke, she immediately flew toward the teleportation formation. Wang Xian followed closely behind and teleported to the location of Planet Liberty. Haha, Miss Lei Dongxue, congratulations this time. When they arrived at the Planet of Freedom, a woman, a middle-aged man, and 2 young men and women walked over with smiles on their faces. Hee, your luck is pretty good. Lei Dongxue smiled at the 4 of them and gestured to them. This is the leader of the Dragon Palace. He has followed me to establish a faction with meritorious deeds. There are many strong people. We have already heard about it. I believe that Miss Lei Dongxue will definitely be able to build up her immortal achievements this time around and receive the Lord God's commendation. The woman said with some flattery. I am still very confident in defeating the rest. Let's go and take a look at the planet of the leader of the Dragon Palace. Lei Dongxue's face was filled with confidence as he asked Wang Xian to lead the way. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the 4 of them. There were 2 middle-aged men. One of them had the strength of 9 wisps of divine fire while the other had the strength of 8 wisps of divine fire. The 2 young women had just ignited the divine fire. They should be Lei Dongxue's trusted aides or followers. He came to the teleportation formation and teleported towards Earth. But soon, the group appeared at the seaside. Lei Dongxue immediately floated in the air and scanned her surroundings. The planet is a little small, but it's still average. She sized up her surroundings and commented indifferently. To him, Earth was indeed average. Let's go. Wang Xian said to her and flew straight into the ocean. Miss Lei Dongxue, this leader of the Dragon Palace seems a little unwilling. At the back, the woman saw Wang Xian and said coldly, "Hee, so what if they are unwilling? He will come and beg me soon." Lei Dongxue looked at Wang Xian and said coldly, "Let's go. I'm a little curious. How can there be nearly 100 gods in a dragon palace? Do they have some treasures?" Lei Dongshue's eyes flickered as he flew toward the dragon palace. The four of them followed closely and flew toward the dragon palace. Chapter 21-26. 21-26 Pride and Death. Come in. Wang Xian looked at Lei Dongxue and the rest behind him and entered the dragon palace directly from the east gates. This dragon palace is really majestic. The young men and women behind Lei Dongxue looked at the dragon palace in front of them with sparkling eyes. Lei Dongxue, who was in front, scanned his surroundings with his sharp eyes and entered the dragon palace directly. Buzz! What thick spiritual energy! The two young men couldn't help but exclaim when they stepped into the dragon palace. The spiritual energy here is terrifyingly thick. The middle-aged man and the woman's expressions changed slightly, and their eyes were filled with shock. One of them had lit 9 wisps of divine fire, and the other had lit 8 wisps of divine fire. They had their own huge divine kingdom. However, the spiritual chi in their divine kingdom was very different. The spiritual chi in the Dragon Palace was more than 100 times more than in the outside world. This majestic spiritual chi was extremely terrifying. They had also been to the eternal divine kingdom, but the spiritual chi there was still very different from here. Perhaps only the eternal divine kingdom could have such spiritual chi. Lei Dongxue also looked around with awe in his heart, his eyes shining. Bring us to the central position. Also, call all the members of your dragon palace over. Lei Dongxue said to Wang Xian in a commanding tone. Wang Xian took a glance at her and walked straight into the Dragon King's hall. The moment they entered the Dragon King's hall, their faces were filled with awe. At this moment, Lei Dongxue was also visibly moved. She looked around with shock on her face. She looked at the dragon chair at the front and the ancestral tree behind the dragon chair. This spiritual energy is almost 200 times stronger than the others. She mumbled as her eyes sparkled. She looked at the dragon chair that was 1,000 meters in size and walked straight to it. Prime Minister Gui, call all the members of the Dragon Palace over. Wang Xian said to Prime Minister Gui. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gui looked at Lei Dongxue unkindly and nodded respectfully to Wang Xian. What an imposing divine throne. Not bad, not bad, not bad at all. She stepped onto the stairs and stood in front of the dragon throne. Is this the divine tree? She looked at the ancestral tree behind the dragon throne and sized it up. There are fruits on it. What kind of power is this? It's so strange. Lei Dongxue looked at the soul-returning bodies and was filled with astonishment. Little Xian, you're back. Who are they? At this moment, Sun Lingxiu's voice rang out. She and Ling Jian came out from the dragon bedroom and looked at Lei Dongxue and the rest with a frown. They're the people from Eternal Shocking Thunder. Wang Xian said to them and gestured for the two of them to come to his side. Eternal Shocking Thunder. The two girls were stunned for a moment and a hint of solemnity appeared on their faces. Oh, Dragon King, are these your two wives? Lei Dongxue was attracted by their gazes and looked at the two of them with slight surprise. All of them have lit the divine fire, and their strength isn't weak. I really didn't expect it. Looking at Sun Lingxiu and Ling Jian, she was slightly surprised. They were so young, and their strength wasn't weaker than hers, and even stronger than hers. She was extremely surprised. This dragon palace was extraordinary. Dragon King. Dragon King. At this moment, members of the Dragon Palace entered the Dragon King Palace one by one. More than 20,000 members followed the leaders of the combat divisions. When they saw Lei Dongxue in front of the dragon throne, their eyes sparkled. All the members of the Dragon Palace have arrived? Only 20,000 or so. The woman next to Lei Dongxue looked down in surprise. All of them are elites. None of them are lower than rank 8 demigod. This force is very strong. The surprised voice came from the woman's mouth again. She glanced at the members of the Dragon Palace and smiled. Miss Lei Dongxue, congratulations. The power of the Dragon Palace is very strong. She said with a smile. Not bad, not bad. More than 100 godly state experts, more than 20,000 demigod rank 8, rank 9, and peak-level disciples. Lei Dongxue looked at the power of the Dragon Palace with a burning look in her eyes. This power was comparable to eternal shocking thunder, a core-level army. I will definitely get a lot of merit points if I control the Dragon Palace. Her heart was burning with excitement as she witnessed the powerful Dragon Palace and the members of the Dragon Palace below. She couldn't help but feel excited about her choice. Voila! Lei Dongxue adjusted her clothes and slowly sat on the dragon chair behind her. She sat upright on the dragon chair with a proud expression on her face. The middle-aged man and the woman immediately stood on both sides and looked down at everyone in the Dragon Palace. I'm very satisfied with your Dragon Palace. If you're obedient, I won't mistreat you. Lei Dongxue's lips curled up slightly and his face was full of pride. Hurry up and thank some young ladies. The woman shouted coldly when she saw the indifferent members of the Dragon Palace. The power of a peak 9 wisps of divine fire slowly pressed forward. If you have the ability, you will naturally have status. Your Dragon Palace has the ability. Lei Dongxue waved her hand. She stared at Wang Xian and said, Dragon King, you are the #1 general under me. I heard that your Dragon Palace has 9 divine beasts that are pulling the divine throne. Those 9 divine beasts will be pulling the sedan beasts for me in the future. Also, you should be the Dragon King's wife. You have the light attribute and good healing and support abilities. The one beside you should be a sword cultivator. You guys will be by my side. She spoke slowly and stood up directly in the end. Does anyone object? Lei Dongxue stood proudly in front of the dragon throne in the Dragon King's palace. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he asked arrogantly. When Wang Xian heard his words, he sighed slightly. A contemplative look appeared on his face. The rest of the members of the Dragon Palace did not speak. They just stood there quietly. Sun Lingxiu and Ling Jian frowned. It's your good fortune to be able to follow our Miss Lei Dongxue. No one objected. It seems that they tacitly agreed. Hurry up and kneel down to show your loyalty. The middle-aged man saw that no one from the Dragon Palace said anything and immediately shouted. Hee, follow me. In the future, I can make you join Eternal Shocking Thunder. You will have several times more planets than you have now. Lei Dongxue sat down slowly and said proudly. Sai, do you really think that you can act recklessly just because of the name Eternal Thunderclap? Wang Xianai sighed slightly. Huh? Lei Dongxue was slightly stunned. She raised her eyebrows and turned to Wang Xian coldly. What, Dragon King? Are you going to defy our Eternal Thunderclap and the Lord of Thunderclap? Her voice was sharp. Walala. As soon as she finished speaking, Prime Minister Gue waved his hand, and all the members of the Dragon Palace took a step forward slowly. No one dares to sit on the throne of the Dragon King, and no one is qualified to sit on it. Prime Minister Gue's voice was cold, and killing intent burst out of the members of the Dragon Palace. Chapter 21-27 21-27 2127 in control. Prime Minister Gue's voice resounded throughout the entire Dragon King Palace. As the members of the Dragon Palace took a step forward, an invisible and terrifying aura filled the entire Dragon King Palace with killing intent. No one dared to sit on the throne of the Dragon King, and no one had the right to do so. At this moment, Lei Dongxue's pupils constricted slightly on the dragon throne, and his face slowly turned ugly. Dragon Palace, what are you trying to do? Disobey Miss Lei Dongxue's orders? Disobey the orders of the Thunder God Lord? With just your tiny dragon palace? You dare to disobey the orders of the God Lord? Are you trying to bring about your own destruction? A young man standing at the front of the dragon throne shouted with a stern expression. His gaze swept across the members of the dragon palace below, and his eyes were filled with disdain. In the entire northern region, who would dare to disobey the orders of the God of Thunder? No one would dare. Disobeying the orders of the God of Thunder was no different from courting death. Dragon King, I'm very angry now. I'll give you 10 seconds to satisfy me within 10 seconds. Otherwise, I'll make all of you regret coming into this world. Lei Dongxue sat on the dragon throne and stared coldly at Wang Xian. Her face was filled with coldness. Even when she was facing everyone from the dragon palace, she was not afraid at all. This was because this was the northern region. She had brought the order of the Lord of Thunderclap to recruit all the major factions. As long as any faction dared to resist, what awaited them was destruction. As for her own safety, she was not worried at all. This was because if anything happened to her, it would be a provocation to the entire Eternal Thunderclap. In the face of such a force, Eternal Thunderclap would definitely take action and get rid of her. No force would dare to touch her. Sitting on the dragon chair, Lei Dongxue was still high and mighty. Another ant who thinks he is high and mighty just because of his background. Wang Xian looked at Lei Dongxue, who was sitting on the dragon chair, and said mockingly, "With your background, I didn't want to make a move initially. However, you are too greedy and arrogant. What right does a woman with 3 wisps of divine fire have to order me around?" He raised his head slightly and said each word coldly. As Wang Xian said that, he moved his arm and a claw instantly appeared in front of Lei Dongxue. It was aimed at her neck. "What? Dragon King, you are courting your own death." Lei Dongxue saw that Wang Xian dared to attack. At this moment, her superior expression completely disappeared. She shouted in a panic. "You dare to attack the elite disciples of Eternal Shocking Thunder. Dragon Palace, you are all dead meat." The woman with 9 wisps of divine fire beside her shouted sternly. She moved her hand to block the attack. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, thorns appeared out of thin air under the feet of the woman and the other 3 people. The ancestral tree behind the dragon throne emitted a faint green light. "Oh no!" The middle-aged woman's expression changed drastically when she saw the experts from the dragon palace attacking. Her eyes revealed a look of panic. Boom! Wang Xian's body trembled. The power that belonged to the dragon palace pressed directly on them. As the divine kingdom of Wang Xian, the dragon palace was naturally under his control. Entering a stranger's divine kingdom was definitely not a good thing. If one did not have great strength to break out of the divine kingdom, they might be suppressed in there forever. That was because this was someone else's world. The woman and the middle-aged man's expressions changed drastically. Their bodies seemed to be suppressed by a star. The thorns wrapped around their bodies. In the next moment, the sharp thorns entered their bodies. Their life force disappeared at a terrifying speed. "Miss Lei Dongxue, save us." The 4 of them revealed terrified expressions as they screamed shrilly. At this moment, Lei Dongxue's face was filled with fear. She opened her mouth. But before she could speak, the energy claw grabbed her neck. Her face turned red instantly. Her delicate face was filled with panic. No, you release." Her body struggled violently as she stared at Wang Xian in horror. She never expected that the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace would dare to attack her. Did they want to die? He actually dared to attack her. At this moment, 4 desperate screams came from beside her. She looked over and her face was filled with shock. The powerhouse that she had spent so much effort to recruit was actually killed. That god with 9 wisps of divine fire did not have the ability to resist at all. "Don't kill me." She begged for mercy with a face full of panic. "It's too late." Wang Xian said faintly and exerted a little strength in his palm. Pref. Her eyes widened and her entire body trembled as she felt the arrival of death. Wang Xian waved his arm and threw her corpse into the Dragon King's hall. Xiao Xian, if we kill her, will there be eternal thunder for revenge? With our strength. Sun Lingxiu saw the arrogant woman being killed and said with some worry. It's a little troublesome, but we have already found a countermeasure. Wang Xian smiled at her. At the side, Prime Minister Gui walked straight to the front of the dragon chair. He wiped the spot where Lei Dongxue had sat and plucked a soul-returning embryo from the ancestral tree. Giving her a soul-returning embryo is such a waste. Prime Minister Gui walked to the corpse and said with a cold gaze. There's nothing we can do about it. However, controlling it will be beneficial to us in the future. Wang Xian said faintly. A few hours ago, after witnessing Lei Dongshue's greed and arrogance, Wang Xian and Prime Minister Gui came up with a solution. Wang Xian and the rest would naturally not coddle a woman with 3 wisps of divine fire. However, the Dragon Palace could not afford to offend the background of the Eternal Thunderbolt. She could use other methods to control it. Once she found the Thunder God Lord, she could easily deal with it. By then, the Dragon Palace would be destroyed. There was only one way, which was to kill it and resurrect it with the soul-returning embryo and the dragon blood token. Lei Dongxue, who was resurrected in the Dragon Palace, could be considered a member of the Dragon Palace. In that case, she would only have one will. The Dragon Palace would be her master, and the Dragon King would be her master. At that time, even the God Lord would not be able to sense what had happened to her. It would be a waste of an extremely precious soul-returning embryo. It's good that you're all right. Little Xian, you can handle the matters of the Dragon Palace. Shu Qing and the rest are in the Transcendence Continent. Jian'er and I have to rush over. Sun Lingxiu saw that Wang Xian had a way to deal with it and flew out of the Dragon Palace with Ling Jian. The group of girls were currently building their dragon and phoenix empire. Dragon King, she should be able to be revived soon. Prime Minister Gui took Lei Donglin's corpse and spoke to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded his head and the two of them walked into the dragon transformation pool. After placing him into the dragon transformation pool, Lei Dongxue, who had a soul-returning embryo and had only been dead for a few minutes, regained consciousness very quickly. Voila! She flew out from the dragon transformation pool with a horrified expression on her face. She stared at Wang Xian with a slightly distorted expression. However, very soon, a respectful expression appeared on her face. Greetings, Dragon King. Chapter 2128 2128 2128 Cannon Fodder. Greetings, Dragon King. Lei Dongxue knelt in front of Wang Xian. She didn't have the arrogance from before. Compared to before, they were two completely different people. Wang Xian stared at her indifferently and revealed a smile on his face. Get up. It's the Dragon King. Lei Dongxue stood respectfully beside Wang Xian. She was filled with respect. Do you still have your own memories? Do you remember everything that happened? Wang Xian asked her calmly. I know. It was Dongxue who recklessly offended the Dragon King. Thank you, Dragon King, for allowing me to be reborn. Lei Dongxue replied quickly. It's good that you know. Tell me about the purpose of Eternal Shocking Thunder's recruitment of the other forces in the northern region. Wang Xian asked her. Dragon King, not long ago, Eternal Shocking Thunder was invaded by a large number of demonic beasts from the demon lair. Even the demonic dragon behind the demonic beasts from the demon lair appeared. At that time, the god of Shocking Thunder appeared, but he wasn't able to kill him. He was even tricked by him and was poisoned. However, the demonic dragon was in an even worse state. His tail was left behind and he had to fight for his life to escape. Now, the demonic dragon is taking revenge on us and countless demonic beasts are attacking us. In order to avoid losses, we, Eternal Thunderclap, have decided to recruit all the forces in the entire northern region. Lei Dongxue said slowly to Wang Xian. Recruit all the forces in the northern region to fight against demonic beasts as cannon fodder. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. More or less. Among demonic beasts, there are more than 20 existences at the peak of the godly state. Even the thunder god of eternal thunderclap only has this number. Under such a battle, even if we can win, we will probably suffer heavy losses. We might even lose half of our strength. Therefore, we will recruit other forces to reduce the losses of eternal thunderclap. Lei Dongxue nodded. In other words, after we head to eternal thunderclap tomorrow, we will enter the front line directly. Wang Xian looked at her. That's right. We will enter the front lines directly. However, whether or not we will be treated as cannon fodder will be another matter. This depends on our decision. As the masters of these forces, we have the right to make a decision. However, in order to obtain merit points, there will definitely be disciples who will order the other forces in the northern region to be treated as cannon fodder. Every time they kill a demonic beast, we will obtain some merit points. Lei Dongxue said so. Your eternal thunderclap is really powerful. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly. Dragon King, don't worry. As long as I'm here, I will not let the members of the Dragon Palace be used as cannon fodder. Lei Dongxue said immediately. What about the demonic beast corpses that we killed? Can we obtain them? Wang Xian's eyes flickered as he asked her. Naturally, there will be some benefits to the Eternal Thunderclap faction. Otherwise, the other factions in the northern region will definitely fight with their lives on the line when they know they are dead. Half of the dead body of Yao Xie can be obtained. The other half belongs to the Eternal Thunderclap faction. You can use the dead body of Yao Xie to exchange for items, formations, and the Eternal Thunderclap faction to open the treasury. There are no treasures in the outside world. Some of the treasures are extremely attractive to those at the peak of the godly state. Lei Dongxue said. Even so, he is still a cannon fodder. Wang Xian mumbled as he opened his palm and took out Lei Dongxue's interspatial ring. Inside the interspatial ring were the divine herbs and divine fruits that she had obtained from Wang Xian as well as various treasures. There were a total of more than 150 godly state experts from the 7 factions, plus the treasures in their lair. That's enough. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. The treasures from the Tianyang divine dynasty, the treasures from the 8 forces of the Yuhuashan sect, and all sorts of divine herbs and elixirs were enough to ignite the divine fire again. Will it be all right if those 4 middle-aged women are killed? If so, think of a way to get rid of them. We will set off tomorrow. Wang Xian said to her before turning around and flying into the Dragon King's hall. The Dragon Palace had no choice but to obey the order of Eternal Thunderclap. However, after his strength had increased, coupled with Lei Dongxue's presence, the danger level would be much lower. After arriving at the Dragon King's palace, Wang Xian poured out all the resources in his interspatial ring and the mother nest. His body moved and transformed into an enormous 7-colored divine dragon, devouring all sorts of resources in large mouthfuls. After lighting another wisp of divine fire, he would have the strength of a peak deity. At that time, apart from the Thunder God, he would not be afraid of anyone else in the northern region. As long as he was given enough time and resources, the Thunder God would not hesitate to kill him. Ding! Congratulations to host for raising your level and lighting the 4th wisp of divine fire. Name, Wang Xian. Race, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Divine Dragon, Mandragon Unity. Level, 4 wisps of divine fire, 5th change of the divine dragon transformation. Divine Crystal, 235. 4,000,000/100 billion. Supernatural ability, ruling the water tribe below one's level. Devouring creatures to extract divine crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, divine dragon transformation. Supernatural ability, soul absorbing, spirit attaching, Yin-Yang 5 elements dragon eyes. Aspect: 5 elements millstone, dragon kingdom in the palm, dragon head under the heavens, dragon body of 10,000 miles, yin-yang poles, yin-yang 5 elements alms bowl, divine dragon tail swing. Divine kingdom, dragon palace. Dragon palace, level 6. Dragon palace members, 33,633. 10 minutes later, an extremely majestic roar was heard throughout the entire dragon palace. The dragon body of 15,000 meters was entrenched in the Dragon King's palace. It was like an extremely mystical mountain peak. The 7-colored dragon scales flickered with a divine glow, causing one to be dazzled. That faint dragon aura caused all creatures below the divine realm to tremble. This form. At this moment, in front of the Dragon King's palace, Lei Dongxue was looking at Wang Xian's form. Her eyes were wide open and a shocked expression appeared on her face. It's actually similar to the demonic dragon. However, it looks much more majestic and noble than the demonic dragon. Some people say that the demonic dragon possesses the bloodline of the legendary divine dragon. Could it be that the Dragon King also possesses it? She mumbled to herself. The divine dragon had long disappeared. There were only some historical records of such terrifying existences. However, according to the records, the divine dragon had already disappeared. There were only some demonic beasts that possessed the bloodline of the divine dragon. Now that she was looking at the 7-colored Dragon King, she felt that the legendary divine dragon might not be as powerful as it. Peak of the godly state. If I were to encounter an existence like the Rain Demon Sword God now, I would be able to kill him within 10 moves. Feeling the powerful strength in his body and looking at his attributes, the corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly. Congratulations to Dragon King for another breakthrough. Prime Minister Gue walked over and said with a smile on his face. Prime Minister Gue, select 15,000 members and follow Eternal Thunderclap tomorrow. Wang Xian transformed into his human form and said to Prime Minister Gui in a good mood. It's the Dragon King. I'll go prepare immediately. Prime Minister Gue nodded his head. When do we set off tomorrow? Wang Xian looked at Lei Dongxue who was not far away. Reporting to the Dragon King. We will set off at noon tomorrow. Lei Dongxue nodded his head respectfully. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. After hesitating for a moment, he flew towards the Transcendence continent. He did not know how long he would be away for this trip. He would go and see the group of girls first. Chapter 2129. 2129-2129, the vast front line of the war. Let's go. At noon the next day, Wang Xian led 15,000 disciples of the Dragon Palace out of the Dragon Palace. In the center of the front row, Lei Dongxue was riding on a fire phoenix dragon seed. She raised her head slightly and regained her arrogant look. Wang Xian followed by the side and the group headed toward the teleportation formation. In order to prevent the people from the eternal thunderstorms from noticing anything, Wang Xian made Lei Dongxue return to her usual appearance. On the surface, she was the leader. Dragon King, the front line is located on the Steel Planet. That is the front line of the fight against the demonic beasts. We will need 2 hours to teleport through the formation. Lei Dongxue whispered to Wang Xian. All right, let's go there first. Wang Xian nodded. The Steel Planet was not a cultivation planet, but a technological planet. It was located not far from the border between the northern region and the central region. In the vast universe, not only were there cultivation planets, there were also many technological planets like Earth in the past. Powerful technological planets and technological weapons could destroy gods. However, after most technological planets learned about cultivation techniques, they gradually turned to cultivation techniques. After all, cultivation techniques could allow humans to live for tens of thousands of years or even 100,000 years. They could travel through the void with their physical bodies. This was something that the technology of the technological planets could not achieve. But after 2 hours of continuous teleportation, Wang Xian and the rest arrived above a building made of steel. There were numerous transparent glass houses in the surroundings. People would appear from time to time in the glass houses, and some would enter the glass houses and disappear. The entire huge building was filled with a sense of technology. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the surroundings. There were many huge cities made of steel in the surroundings, which impacted everyone's line of sight. The Steel Planet is the strongest technological planet in the northern region. The technological weapons here can kill gods with 3 to 4 wisps of divine fire. If they were any stronger, they wouldn't be able to do it. Lei Dongxue raised his head proudly and transmitted his voice to Wang Xian. Now, we need to report to the front line so that we can prepare for the upcoming battle. He continued. Lead the way. Wang Xian nodded and followed behind Lei Dongxue as they flew towards the front. In the surroundings, there were flying cars shuttling in the air. There were also many cultivators flying in the sky. There are so many people on this planet. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the surroundings. All of them were densely packed, and he asked curiously. The Steel Planet is now the front line of the entire Eternal Thunderclap. Currently, almost 100 cultivators and powerhouses from all the planets have come here. Not only did Eternal Thunderclap recruit many forces, they also attracted more than 1 billion cultivators to guard the front line through missions. In addition to the various powerful armies and logistics personnel of Eternal Shocking Thunder, the number of people on this planet has increased by more than 2 billion. Lei Dongxue reported. By the way, have the experts who were stationed at the energy tide come over? Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat as he asked hurriedly. The energy tide is also a relatively important place. Once we evacuate, it will be completely occupied by the Eternal Divine Leaf. Lei Dongxue said with some doubt. Although she was puzzled, she didn't dare to ask further. That's good. Wang Xian mumbled. More than 10,000 people flew forward. The people around them looked at them in astonishment. When they saw Lei Dongxue, all of them had a look of awe on their faces. Clearly, this person was very famous in Eternal Shocking Thunder. Many people knew him. The area of the Steel Planet was huge. Wang Xian estimated that it was at least 100 to 200 times larger than Earth. After flying for half an hour, he finally arrived at the front line. When Wang Xian saw the battle line in front of him, his face revealed a look of shock. An incomparably huge steel city wall stood in the void. The entire steel city wall was at least tens of millions of kilometers long. Its height reached up to millions of kilometers. At this moment, cultivators were standing densely on the silver-white steel city wall. In front of them, there was a meteorite floating in the void. There were big and small meteorites. The big meteorites were hundreds of kilometers in size, while the small ones were thousands of meters in size. It looked extremely chaotic. The meteorites were densely packed, and there was a demonic roar in the middle. When Wang Xian got closer to the Steel City Wall, he noticed that there were many gigantic war machines on the Steel City Wall. At this moment, a beam of light with a diameter of 1,000 meters headed straight for the demonic beast in front of him. The terrifying beam of light penetrated tens of millions of kilometers into the void. Most of the demonic beasts that were hit by it would not be able to escape death. That is the Light Obliteration Cannon. It uses technology to control the power of light and is able to kill an immortal-level existence. Lei Dongxue saw Wang Xian's curious expression and explained to him through voice transmission. It's really magical. It's similar to a formation. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he said, technology is indeed similar to a formation. It's a way of using attributes. Lei Dongxue hesitated for a moment before saying. He landed on the silver-white steel city wall and looked at the endless void in front of him. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. This was the starry sky of the universe. Let's go to the Eternal Thunderclap Command Center. Lei Dongxue walked toward the center. Miss Lei, congratulations. I heard that you are now in control of a very powerful force. Lord Lei. Lord Lei. Along the way, Some people greeted Lei Dongxue enthusiastically. Wang Xian watched silently from the side. After walking for only a dozen kilometers, he encountered more than 30 gods. The number of gods here was terrifying. Dragon King were here. It might be a little offensive to speak later. Lei Dongxue said softly and looked at the command center in front of him. It's all right. Act according to your character. Wang Xian nodded his head. The command center of a silvery white steel building was filled with a sense of technology. When Lei Dongxue walked forward, the metal door opened directly. Inside was an incomparably huge command center. The entire battlefield could be seen clearly from here. At this moment, there were more than 1 million people gathered inside. They are all here. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the area and realized that the people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the God-Burning Dynasty, and the Enchanting Divine Gate were all inside. He narrowed his eyes slightly. His gaze swept across the location of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. When he killed the Rain Demon Sword God, he had mentioned that the Northern Expedition Trading Company was the one who told them about this news. Wang Xian was somewhat suspicious. The Northern Expedition Trading Company had to a certain extent been involved in the Yuhuashan sect's ambush. Lei Dongxue, you are the only one left. At the front, Lei Tianxing saw them arrive and said coldly. His gaze swept past Wang Xian and the others, and a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. This time, if it wasn't for the Dragon Palace, he could have taken over the Yuhuashan sect. But now, compared to Lei Donglin, Lei Beichen, and the others, the difference was enormous. In the future, the difference between them would only grow larger and larger. This was all because of the Dragon Palace and Ridong Shui. Towards this, he was filled with hatred towards Ridong Shui and the Dragon Palace. Chapter 2130. 2130 in 2130's intense battle. You guys are early. Lei Dongxue scanned the surroundings and led Wang Xian and the rest straight ahead. Aren't there close to 100 godly state experts in the Dragon Palace? Why are there only 50 of them here? Lei Beichen and the rest looked behind Lei Dongxue. They were slightly surprised as they swept their gaze across the area. I have my own plans for this. There's no need for everyone to worry about me. Lei Dongxue smiled faintly, his gaze turning to an old man in front of him. He bowed and called out, Lord Thunder God. That's right, since you're all here, I'll call the rest of the Thunder Gods over. The old man's gaze swept over the group of experts in front of him, and he nodded indifferently. With a thought, he transmitted his voice to each of them. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Are all the forces of the Northern Territory Alliance here? I heard that they are still in the mood to fight among themselves. It seems that they are living too comfortably. Figures slowly appeared in front of them. They were standing on the high platform in front of them. There were about 20 figures. Some of them were wearing the clothes of the Eternal Thunderclap clan, while others were wearing battle armors. Each of the old men exuded a terrifying pressure and were filled with dignity. Their eyes swept forward, and their faces were filled with pride. Seeing the 20 figures in front of them, the faces of everyone from the Northern Territory Alliance changed slightly, and their eyes were filled with respect. Even the 3-peak deity realm experts from the Northern Territory Alliance were looking at them solemnly. Hearing the Thunder God's words, they looked a little embarrassed. Greetings, Lord Thunder God. Lei Dong, Shui Lei, Bei Chen, and the other youths immediately called out respectfully when they saw the 20 Thunder Gods. Close to 600 deity realm experts and 3-peak deity realm experts. Their strength isn't bad. There are some things that you should know. Don't have any thoughts. The entire Northern Territory is in danger now. If it wasn't for us, Eternal Shocking Thunder, you would have been destroyed. This time, we will recruit you. Listen to the orders of my Eternal Shocking Thunder disciples. Anyone who dares to disobey us will be exterminated by our hands. An old man with a knife scar on his face and a ferocious expression on his face, dressed in battle armor, coldly warned the other factions. Everyone, don't worry. We, eternal shocking thunder, are not asking you to die. This is also an opportunity for you. The treasury of eternal shocking thunder is open to all of you. As long as you have merit points, you can exchange for any treasure. Especially the 3 Peak God Realm experts. If you can kill 2 Peak God Realm experts, our God Lord has said that we can directly confer you the title of Thunder God. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, an old man beside him took over his words and comforted him. A big stick and a sweet date. After all, the forces of the Northern Region Alliance were not slaves. Below them, the forces heard their words and did not speak. They already knew this. Although they were directly recruited, it was better if they were lucky and could obtain many items. Some items were extremely precious to them. They could only accept such a situation. You 10 outstanding disciples, each choose a stronghold. The more demonic beasts you kill, the more meritorious deeds you will receive. In addition, special operations are required. You must unconditionally agree. The scarred thunder god who had just started speaking said. As his voice fell, he disappeared. The rest of the thunder gods also left. Only one stayed behind. You should know the location of the stronghold. Choose your stronghold and organize an attack in an hour. The last remaining thunder god ordered them. It's Lord Thunder God. Leave it to us. Lei Beichen bowed and said with a smile. All right, you guys go. I'll supervise the battle in an hour. Thunder God nodded. He turned around to look at the void battleground in front of him, keeping an eye on his surroundings. 10 strongholds. We want the central stronghold. At this moment, Lei Beichen immediately said to the other 9 young men and women. I want the center too. I want to be close to the center. As soon as Lei Beichen finished speaking, Lei Donglin, Lei Tianming, and the others immediately spoke as well. I want the one on the left. Lei Dongxue also spoke up. Lei Dongxue, the strength of the Dragon Palace is not bad, yet you chose the safest place. Don't you want merit points? After Lei Dongxue made his choice, Lei Beichen and the rest looked over in astonishment. You guys don't need to worry about my matters. Lei Dongxue said calmly and walked straight towards the location of the stronghold. Is there anything special about this stronghold? Wang Xian followed behind and asked Lei Dongxue. There are 10 strongholds, and they are also the center of the demonic invasion. You have to be constantly attacked by Xiao Xian and Yao Xie there. Sometimes, there will be demonic beasts at the peak of the godly state. If you are not careful, you will suffer heavy losses. Lei Dongxue explained to Wang Xian in a low voice. I see. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. Killing Yao Xie could earn merit points. However, Lei Dongxue, who had been subdued, was now focusing on the safety of the Dragon Palace. Therefore, she chose the safest place. The rest of the young men with eternal shock couldn't wait to choose the center seat. As for the death of the Northern Alliance, it had nothing to do with them. As long as they had merit points, it was enough. Lei Dongxue, you guys are finally here. We can relax a little. When they arrived at a stronghold in the center of the steel city wall, a middle-aged man saw them walking over and said with a smile. Thank you for your hard work, Lord Renaud. Leave this place to me. Lei Dongxue said with a smile. All right. I'll leave it to you, Dongxue. Your strength is not bad. As the middle-aged man spoke, his gaze swept across Wang Xian and the rest behind her as he praised her. Dragon King, send someone to guard this stronghold. The moment any evil spirit steps 20 kilometers into the steel city wall, kill them immediately. Lei Dongxue smiled and commanded the Dragon King with an imposing manner. One had to complete the act. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head and gestured to the surrounding members of the Dragon Palace. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the members of the Dragon Palace stood in front of the steel city wall and stared straight ahead. A group of demonic beasts is coming over. Just as the members of the Dragon Palace dispersed, a group of demonic beasts rushed over from the front. There were at least a few thousand of them, and there was a celestial-level demonic beast among them. Go over and kill them. The Dragon King looked over and immediately gave an order. Be careful. Demonic beasts are very cunning. They are not here to die in vain. There might be more powerful demonic beasts hidden among them. The number of demonic beasts is terrifying. They are using this method to wear down our strength. Lei Dongxue immediately reminded him from the side. Oh! Wang Xian raised his eyebrows, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. Huh! When he looked towards the demonic evil that was charging towards him, he was slightly taken aback. There was actually a demonic evil with 6 wisps of divine fire hidden within that demonic evil. If he were to send some members of the Dragon Palace over unprepared, they would all die there. Chapter 2131. 2131. In the intense battle of 2131, demons were mainly bestial in nature, and they were mainly bloodthirsty. However, this didn't mean that they were unintelligent. On the contrary, their battle experience couldn't even be compared to many humans. They wouldn't blindly come here to throw their lives away. They also knew some strategies: sneak attack, ambush, lure, and escape. Among them, there's a demon with 6 wisps of divine fire. Ao Xingmu, hide behind the members of the Dragon Palace and deal with that demon with 6 wisps of divine fire. Wang Xian looked at the thousands of evil demons that were flying towards him and instructed Ao Xingmu. Yes, Dragon King. Leave it to me. Ao Xingmu nodded and gestured to his subordinates. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, under the leadership of a starwood dragon species that had ignited 2 wisps of divine fire, he attacked the thousands of evil demons directly. Roar! Standing on the steel city wall, Wang Xian could hear the roars of the demonic beasts and the bloody aura. Looking at the demonic beasts, he was a little puzzled. Where did these demonic beasts come from? Why did they have the characteristics of the bug race? The only difference was that the growth rate of the demonic beasts was much lower than that of the bug race. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than 500 members of the Starwood Combat Division flew over and twined around the demonic beasts. The leader of the group ignited 2 wisps of divine fire Starwood Combat Division members and locked onto the Yao God at the front of Yao Xie. Suddenly, behind Yao Xie, a Yao Xie's body expanded explosively and emitted a monstrous evil aura. Its eyes were blood-red as it ferociously attacked the Starwood Combat Division members. You're courting death. Ao Xingmu, who had been hiding in the back, looked at the cunning Yao Xie and revealed a cold expression. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, the branches that filled the sky enveloped all of them. Buzz. With a wave of his arm, all of the demonic experts were enveloped and killed easily. Wang Xian stood on the steel city wall and watched with a smile on his face. After all, Ao Xingmu, who was comparable to 9 wisps of divine fire, was able to kill thousands of demonic experts easily. Dragon King. Ao Xingmu and the rest flew over and placed the demonic beasts' corpses on the ground. Dragon King, the technology of the Steel City Wall can record the demonic beasts killed in the stronghold. These demonic beast corpses should be placed in a separate spot. Lei Dongxue walked over and reminded Wang Xian in a low voice. Can I take half of them away now? Wang Xian frowned slightly and said to her, No, you have to wait for a fixed time before you can collect the body of the demonic beasts or exchange for merit points. Lei Dongxue shook her head. Wang Xian frowned and felt a little uncomfortable. Dragon King, this base of ours is considered a place where the demonic beasts seldom attack. Even so, you have seen the situation, Dragon King. No one knows if there are stronger demonic beasts among the demonic beasts that are attacking us. Every time we clean up these invading demonic beasts, we can't let the experts of the 9 wisps of divine fire attack continuously. Otherwise, the god of the 9 wisps of divine fire won't be able to hold on. This is the result of such a situation. If we're unlucky, it's very likely that the person who killed the demonic beasts won't be able to come back. Lei Dongxue told Wang Xian about the situation and experience here. Wang Xian nodded slightly. Oh, this is bad. There are stronger demonic beasts among them. Sir, please save us. At this moment, screams of pain came from the side. Wang Xian looked over and narrowed his eyes slightly. We are the 10th stronghold here and the 9th one over there. That faction of the Northern Alliance is in trouble. Lei Dongxue said. No wonder Eternal Thunderclap would recruit all the factions in the northern region. Even Eternal Thunderclap can't withstand such a loss. Wang Xian said plainly. Dragon King, there are demons attacking again. At this moment, Ao Qitian's voice rang out. Wang Xian looked ahead and saw a cloud of black fog flying towards them. The black fog covered an area of 200 to 300 kilometers. It was impossible to see how many demons were in the black fog. There's such a method. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. Lei Dongxue, who was beside him, nodded his head. A godly state member will lead 1,000 members and charge over. Wang Xian stared into the black fog with his yin-yang and 5 elements dragon eyes and ordered immediately. Yes. The group of Dragon Palace members flew over immediately and charged towards Yao Xie, who was in the black fog. Following that, Yao Xie would definitely invade every 10 minutes or so. There would be all kinds of methods and ambushes. Fortunately, Wang Xian had the yin-yang and 5 elements dragon eyes. Otherwise, unless Ao Qitian and the rest kept attacking, there would definitely be casualties. In front of the entire Steel City wall, the demonic roars and human screams were incessant. Especially in the middle, the battle became even more intense. Get ready, take the initiative to attack. An hour later, a voice suddenly sounded. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, 2 to 3 million cultivators flew out from the back. The leaders were 5 armored thunder gods. Some of them were wielding thunder hammers while others were wielding spears. Their bodies were emitting a terrifying aura. The million-strong army was silent. Only a majestic aura was suspended in the air, causing one's heart to palpitate. At least 200 gods were standing behind the 5 thunder gods. It was extremely terrifying. It's time to attack. Wang Xian looked over and a hint of seriousness appeared on his face. Dragon King, prepare to attack. Lei Dongxue whispered to him before floating in the air. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, line up. She shouted loudly. Walala. Wang Xian gestured to the members of the Dragon Palace and floated behind Lei Dongxue. Disciples of the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce, follow me. Disciples of the God-Burning Dynasty, prepare for battle. Strong and confident shouts came from the right. The forces of the Northern Region Alliance will be the vanguard this time. In the sky, a thunder god shouted coldly. Lei Dongxue led more than 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace towards the right. Soon, they gathered together with more than 6 million forces of the Northern Region Alliance. This time, almost 80% of the forces of the Northern Territory Alliance were mobilized. There were 500 God Realm experts alone. Buzz. At this moment, 5 figures suddenly came to the center of the forces of the Northern Territory Alliance. The Northern Territory Alliance will be led by the 5 of us in this battle. No force of the Northern Territory Alliance can disobey. Those who disobey will be killed. An old man wearing a bamboo hat shouted with a cold face. Huh. Everyone from the Northern Alliance was slightly shocked when they saw the 5 figures that suddenly floated in the air in front of them. What are they doing? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at them in astonishment. They want merit points. What a good plan. Although the 10 of U.S. disciples have recruited all the factions of the Northern Alliance and all the factions listen to our orders, those factions should consider the orders of the experts of the Northern Alliance. The Northern Territory Alliance only has 3 peak deity realm experts. The other forces don't dare to refuse. If they really attack and kill those who disobey, We won't be able to protect them. Lei Dongshue's expression slightly changed as he solemnly said from the side. Chapter 2132. 2132. In the midst of a terrible battle. In front of the steel wall, the president and vice president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the leader of the Gate of God, and Lei Beichen Lei Tianming. The five of them stood in the center of the position, exuding a powerful force, staring at all the forces of the Northern Alliance. 3 gods at the top, 5 or 6 million disciples of the Northern League, and about 500 gods. When the eternal thunderclaps Ridong Linli and the others saw this scene, their faces slowly began to turn ugly. They were doing this because they wanted to control the power of the entire Northern Alliance in their own hands so that they could obtain the most merit points. Although they had the authority to order the various powers of the Northern Alliance. These powers, under the threat of the 3 peak stage deities of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, had no choice but to obey. Normally, as the most outstanding young generation of Eternal Thunderclap, they had the ability to make the various factions ignore the orders of the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the enchanting Divine Gate. However, they still had to face Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming. If they appeared, Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming would also appear. As the first and second place winners of the grand competition not long ago, if they were to join forces, even if the other 8 people were to join forces, it would be difficult for them to contend against them. Damn it, I didn't expect the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the bewitching Divine Gate to actually want to direct this war. Young Master Lei Donglin, if you can't stop them, we must listen to the orders of the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the bewitching Divine Gate. Otherwise, once they take revenge on us. When the Emperor of the God-Burning Dynasty saw this scene, his expression was similarly unsightly as he spoke to Lei Donglin by his side. In the entire Northern Region Alliance, only the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the Demonic God Sect had peak deity realm experts. Now that the 2 factions had joined forces, they did not dare to disobey. If I step out to stop them, Lei Beichen, Lei Tianming, and the others will also step out to stop them. Lei Donglin's expression was extremely ugly. He looked at the other people around him and saw that their expressions were the same, filled with helplessness. There's nothing we can do. He shook his head in a low voice. He felt a little helpless. Then our God-Burning God Dynasty has nothing we can do. The Emperor of the God-Burning God Dynasty said in a low voice. He looked at the 5 people in front of him and said directly, our God-Burning God Dynasty listens to the orders of the guild leader and the sect leader. We also listen to the orders of the 5 of you. Seeing that the God-Burning God Dynasty had responded, the other factions immediately spoke up as well. Good. Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming looked at each other when they saw this scene. Their faces were filled with excitement. Next, I hope that everyone will obediently follow orders. Otherwise, you will regret it for the rest of your lives. Lei Beichen spoke out with a faint warning. Yes. The disciples of the Northern Region Alliance immediately responded loudly. It's not bad to be able to unite them. Let's go. At this moment, a Thunder God at the back said calmly. It's Lord Thunder God. Let's go. Lei Beichen shouted loudly, high-spirited. Let's go. The Elder of Light from the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce also shouted loudly. 5 to 6 million troops immediately flew towards the void ahead. Wind-type cultivators with flying mounts, go ahead and scout the situation. Flying Wing Sect, go ahead and scout. In the dense area of meteorites ahead, no one knew if there was an evil spirit lurking behind these meteorites. At this moment, the president of the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce swept his gaze behind him, landing on a group of people with flying mounts and a sect. He immediately gave the order. The expressions of everyone from the Flying Wing sect changed slightly when they heard the order from the president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. The expression of the youth who had recruited them, Eternal Shocking Thunder, was also incomparably ugly. going to investigate was undoubtedly the most dangerous. One moment of carelessness could result in death. Yes. However, how could they dare to disobey at this moment? If they went to investigate, they would still have a chance of surviving. If they disobeyed, they would definitely perish in the future. In an instant, more than 100,000 cultivators with green wings and mounts flew forward to investigate the situation. After flying for only 50 to 60 kilometers, miserable screams sounded. There are more than 10,000 demons here. A disciple shouted with a face full of fear. There are also demons here. We have demons here too. Following that, voices rang out one after another. Some disciples were being chased by thousands or even tens of thousands of demonic beasts. Some were directly swallowed into their mouths. Northern Expedition Trading Company disciples, enchanting divine gate disciples, kill. Danger was detected. Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming immediately ordered loudly. Kill, kill, kill. A group of disciples and gods immediately rushed over and killed Yaoxia. Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming are really smart. They got the other factions to investigate the situation. After confirming that it was safe, they ordered the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the disciples of the enchanting celestial sect to take action. Such meritorious deeds are all theirs. As the other factions did not fight with Yaoxia, although the people sent out to investigate were very dangerous, they could reduce the losses by a lot. They wouldn't have much of an opinion. Killing two birds with one stone. The ones at a disadvantage are only me and the other 7 disciples. Lei Dongxue looked ahead and said to Wang Xian. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. A thoughtful look appeared on his face. After being recruited to the front line, he had to think of a way to obtain a large number of Yao Xie's corpses. Otherwise, staying here would be under the control of others. Moreover, it would be very dangerous. Boom, boom, boom. As the battle progressed, Wang Xian and the rest did not have the chance to make a move because of the presence of the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the disciples of the enchanting divine sect. A large group of people were sent to scout ahead. After the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the disciples of the enchanting divine sect confirmed that they were safe, they made their move and killed them. The huge group of people advanced forward rapidly. Soon, they entered the dense meteor rocks. However, more and more people died, especially those who went to investigate. Among the hundreds of thousands of people, at least 70% of them would die. Meanwhile, the disciples of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the enchanting divine sect, and even the godly state experts also began to die. The battle was extremely tragic. Wails, roars, and howls filled an area of tens of thousands of kilometers. The deeper they went, the more terrifying the number of demonic beasts became. When they advanced about 500 kilometers, the number of demonic beasts around them had already reached hundreds of millions. Among them, there were 200 to 300 deity-level demonic beasts. Young Master Lei Beichen, we have to get everyone to take action. Otherwise, our Northern Expedition Trading Company will suffer too many losses. In the center, the Northern Expedition Trading Company's president said with an embarrassed expression when he saw the loss of his disciples. Sure. Beside him, Lei Beichen, whose face was filled with excitement, hesitated for a moment before slowly nodding his head. If they were to let the Northern Expedition Trading Company fight alone again, the Northern Expedition Trading Company might have some objections. All factions, attack and kill Yaoxia. The leader of the enchanting god sect immediately ordered loudly from the side. Go, go! Kill him! Kill more Yaoxia from the demon lair. When Lei Tianxing, Lei Donglin, and the rest heard the order, they immediately gave the order to the commandeering faction with an embarrassed expression. Let's begin too. A strong fighting spirit flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. Although they could only obtain half of the bodies of the demonic beasts, it would still be a huge amount of resources if there were too many of them. Chapter 2133. 2133 disobeyed the order and died? Members of the Dragon Palace, maintain your formation. Saturn turtles defend the front to prevent a large number of demonic beasts from charging over. The Starwood Combat Division is behind the Saturn turtles, attacking from a distance. The Demon Combat Division and the Thunder Division are on the two wings. The Support Division and the Heaven's Eye Arrow Division are at the back. On the void battleground that was filled with meteorites, Wang Xian stared at the hundreds of millions of demonic beasts in front of him and ordered loudly. "It's the Dragon King." More than 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace responded loudly. The Saturn Turtle, one of the subordinates that the Transcendence continent had subdued, was now a dragon seed of the Dragon Palace. They possessed extremely strong defensive capabilities and were not very strong in terms of offensive capabilities. However, it was the best choice for them to defend the front. The members of the Starwood Combat Division at the back were engaging in long-range attacks. The Devil Combat Division and the Thunder Division were on the left and right. There were already 10 berserk dragon species among them, and their combat strength was extremely violent. The gods of the Dragon Palace who had ignited the godly fire locked onto those god-level demons. "Kill, kill!" Ao Chitian roared and smashed the ocean-pacifying needle in his hand toward the front. Sensing Ao Chitian's violent power, a demon with 9 wisps of godly fire in front of him charged toward him without fear. Ao Chitian's blood-red Goyu's eyes turned slightly, and he directly attacked that demonic fiend. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The 2,000 Saturn turtles at the forefront trembled slightly. Their bodies were enveloped by a thick earth elemental energy. Their entire bodies were like a moving castle, and they charged forward directly. The Saturn turtles in a row charged forward with a shocking power. They charged into Yaoxia's army without any fear. Yaoxia's blood-red eyes stared at them as he charged forward. Looking at this bloody battlefield from afar was terrifying. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the rear, the members of the Heavenly Eye Archery Division drew their bows and shot arrows. Tens of thousands of arrows charged forward. Mao Zixin and the other 2 god-level archers, in particular, shot arrows one after another, instantly piercing through tens of thousands of demons. In just one round of attack, they had killed hundreds of thousands of demons. The members of the Demon War Division and the Thunder Division attacked the demons one by one from the 2 wings. With the help of the water elemental dolphins at the rear, the sky blue light on their bodies circulated. Special sound waves reverberated throughout the battlefield of the Dragon Palace, supporting the members of the Dragon Palace and suppressing Yaoxia. The orderly attacking methods tore a hole in Yaoxia's army. After the Saturn Turtle blocked the first wave of attacks, Yaoxia was entangled by countless thorns. As the most powerful combat division of the Dragon Palace, the Starwood Combat Division, once they ignited the divine fire, they were comparable to the Mad Dragon. Under such circumstances, Yaoxia would be killed quickly in the face of their attacks. In addition to the fact that the members of the Dragon Palace had the combat strength of at least a rank 9 demigod, more than 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace could match the army of millions of other forces. In fact, the members of the Dragon Palace suffered very little losses due to their perfect cooperation. Since the Dragon Palace was founded, it had experienced more than a dozen wars of all sizes, all of which were extremely terrifying. The experience and coordination of each member of the Dragon Palace was not something that an ordinary army could compare to. One by one, evil demons fell under the bodies of the members of the Dragon Palace. This is so powerful. Lei Dongxue was shocked when he saw the battle of the members of the Dragon Palace for the first time. The lowest level of combat strength of a rank 9 demigod was defense, attack, long range, and support. Under the precise coordination, he was like a demonic harvester. His killing speed was even comparable to that of the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the demonic god sect. One had to know that the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the demonic god sect had more than 1,000,000 disciples. He. When Wang Xian heard Lei Dongshue's evaluation from the side, a faint smile appeared on his face. The current Dragon Palace was not complete. The most powerful demonic beast in assassination was not around, and the dragon guards with strong killing power were no longer around. The strongest AO crab was not around either. There are no more than 3 legions of eternal thunderclap that are comparable to your Dragon Palace army, Dragon King. Lei Dongxue said with some flattery. Wang Xian smiled and quietly hovered in the air as he watched the battle in front of him. He did not make a move. What force is that? More than 15,000 people actually have such a terrifying force. Even the core battle team of Eternal Thunderclap is only SOSO. At the last position of the battlefield, the 5 thunder gods led millions of disciples. They didn't take action now, so there was no need for them to take action since there were so many demons. One of the thunder gods looked at the Dragon Palace with surprise in his eyes. It's indeed very strong. It's controlled by that girl Lei Dongxue. It should be the Dragon Palace. It's a new force, and there seem to be a lot of god-level experts. A thunder god said. It's a good choice to recruit other forces. It can reduce our losses. This force is really good. More than 10,000 people can make up a few million core. We can ask the Lord God to take them in the future. A thunder god said with surprise in his eyes. Sky! At this moment, the 3,000 members of the Starwood Combat Division shouted in unison on the battlefield where the Dragon Palace was. The branches covered an area of 500 to 600 kilometers in an instant. Their battlefield was completely covered. Millions of demons were instantly covered. In an instant, miserable screams were heard. One demon after another was lifted into the air and pierced through by thorns. How could the Dragon Palace be so powerful? The horrifying scene from the Dragon Palace attracted the attention of many forces around. When they saw the thorns from the Dragon Palace dragging millions of demonic beasts into the air, they were shocked. More than 3,000 people killed millions of demonic beasts in one move. Although there were 7 or 8 God Realm experts among the 3,000 people, this scene was too terrifying. Damn it, how can the forces of the Dragon Palace be so powerful? Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming, who were in the center, saw this scene and their faces darkened. Killing Yao Xie meant merit points. The more they killed, the higher their merit points would be. The reason why they joined forces was to suppress the other disciples. They had never thought that the Dragon Palace would be so terrifying. They had killed millions of Yao Xie with one move. If they continued to kill, their merit points might be surpassed by Lei Dongxue. The two of them looked at each other, their faces slightly embarrassed. We can't let the Dragon Palace continue to fight like this. Lei Beichen growled in a low voice. Lei Tianming also nodded heavily. This Dragon Palace is really surprising. The bright elder of the Northern Expedition Trading Company swept his gaze over, his eyes shining. Their strength is indeed very strong. Young masters, there's no need to be anxious. It's just the beginning. They only have 10,000 people. When they encounter powerful demons and suffer heavy losses, their combat strength will naturally be much weaker than before. The president of the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce didn't take the Dragon Palace seriously and said indifferently. Chapter 2134. 2134 disobeyed the order and died. That's true. Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming's eyes shone when they heard the Northern Expedition's guild leader's words. No matter how strong the Dragon Palace was, there was no peak divine realm existence. No matter how strong they were, they only had over 10,000 members. If they lost 7,000 to 8,000 members, it would be enough to cause them severe injuries. There was nothing to worry about. Then I'll have to trouble you in a while, guild leader. Lei Beichen said to the guild leader of the Northern Expedition Trading Company with a smile on his face. The guild leader of the Northern Expedition Trading Company nodded his head faintly. What kind of demon beast is that? To actually have such methods, it's truly extraordinary. At the back, a thunder god's gaze was fixed on the members of the Starwood Combat Division as he exclaimed in shock. If such a force is recruited by eternal shocking thunder. We'll talk about it after this war is over. A thunder god spoke, and a thunder god beside him interrupted him. After the thunder god heard this, he fell silent for a moment and then nodded. If he really recruited this force into eternal shocking thunder, after the thunder god lord saw the potential and strength of the other party, he might be interested in talents. This was not a good thing for eternal shocking thunder's current army. After all, with the invasion of demons, someone had to stand at the front line. If this force was not at the front line, the other forces of eternal shocking thunder would be at the front line. Out of selfishness, even if the Dragon Palace was very strong and had great potential, they would not recruit it. Boom, boom, boom. Blood splattered everywhere on the battlefield. All the disciples of the forces were bloodthirsty. The blood even condensed into a bloody mist in the sky. Yao Xie's screams and the deaths of humans echoed in the area covered by meteorites. Dozens of people died every second in every force. Only the disciples of the Dragon Palace were killing Yao Xie in an orderly manner. The Saturn Turtle was defending in front, forming an indestructible defense. The two-winged Demon Combat Division and the Thunder Division rarely died in close combat with the help of dolphins. The Starwood Combat Division and the Sky Eye Arrow Division behind were the Grim Reapers, killing crazily. The Dragon Palace suffered very little losses. The Yaoxia they killed was comparable to the Northern Expedition Trading Company. One had to know that the Northern Expedition Trading Company had 5 million disciples who were at least at the demigod level. The battle continued to unfold. 10 minutes later, Ao Chitian killed the 9 wisps of divine fire evil demon. The battle continued to advance forward, bit by bit. From the first 500 kilometers, they continued to slaughter their way in for more than 1,000 kilometers. Hundreds of millions of demons were slowly being killed. The injured disciples are at the back to heal. Seeing that the demons' resistance was getting smaller and smaller, some of the demons flew toward the center of the damage. The voice of a thunder god resounded in everyone's ears. Phew! This made the injured disciples slightly relieved. At least eternal shocking thunder didn't force them to die. Thank you, Lord Thunder God. Hundreds of thousands of injured disciples immediately flew back and arrived behind eternal shocking thunder and the other factions. Their safety was greatly guaranteed. We have only stepped into 1,500 kilometers. This time, we will kill our way into one of Yaoxia's strongholds. Thunder God continued to give orders. Set off. At the front, Lei Beichen shouted loudly and the entire team proceeded forward. Yaoxia's corpse had already been put away. With the record of the technology of the Steel Planet, it was clear which faction had killed Yaoxia of what level. 5 to 6 million disciples had died in the battle just now, at least 1 million or so. One had to know that all of them were experts at the lowest demigod level. It was extremely tragic. As they continued to move forward, everyone had a solemn expression on their faces. In the face of such a tragic war, everyone had to brace themselves. After flying for more than 500 kilometers, they did not encounter any attacks from Yaoxia. This caused everyone to frown slightly. Yaoxia knows that we are here. She should have set up an ambush in front or be prepared to wait for us. Lei Dongxue looked around with vigilance on his face. Wang Xian's dragon eyes of yin yang and the 5 elements were opened as he scanned his surroundings. The bloody smell that came from the void indicated that Yaoxia had not left. Devil's Lair. That's the Devil's Lair. At this moment, exclamations sounded from the front. Wang Xian looked over and saw numerous huge devil's lairs a few hundred kilometers ahead. There were 10 demon caves, and each of them had an entrance that was more than 100,000 meters wide. Looking over, it was like an abyss. These demon caves stood above the huge meteorites. The dark demon caves gave off a terrifying aura. This demon cave is about 10 times bigger than the one on Earth. Wang Xian mumbled. You guys deal with the 4 demon caves. Leave the remaining 6 to us. At this moment, Eternal Thunderclap and the rest of the Thunder Gods led their disciples to the front. They looked at the Northern Alliance and said calmly, "It's Lord Thunder God." Lei Beichen and the rest nodded immediately. They turned around and looked at the 10 gigantic demon caves in front of them. Their faces were filled with solemnity. Lock onto the 6 demon caves and attack with energy. The 5 thunder gods of eternal shocking thunder had already given the order to attack from the side. Our Northern Expedition Trading Company will lead 3 forces to attack 2 devil dens. The Enchanting God sect will take on 1. The God-Burning God dynasty will lead 4 forces to attack 1 devil den. The Dragon Palace will take on 1 devil den alone. If there is a peak stage God realm Yaoxia, we will try our best to pin him down or even kill him. We will attack immediately. At this moment, the president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company turned around and ordered all the forces of the Northern Alliance. No one is to disobey or else. Lei Beichen, Lei Tianming, and the others swept their gazes over, their eyes filled with warning. Oh, why is the Dragon Palace fighting against a demon den alone? Lei Dongshue's expression changed slightly when he heard their words, and he asked in embarrassment. There's no reason. This is an order. Lei Beichen and the others revealed smiles on their faces as they looked at Lei Dongxue. Ask them if they dare to disobey the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the Bewitching Divine Gate's orders. So what if they disobey? Timmy, what? The Northern Expedition Trading Company and the Bewitching Divine Gate still dare to suppress me? Lei Dongxue stared at the 3 peak deity realm experts without the slightest bit of fear. The president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company frowned slightly and looked at Lei Beichen. They don't dare to suppress you, but we do. You won't be able to protect the Dragon Palace. Dongxue, I've offended you this time. Lei Tianming said plainly to Lei Dongxue. Disobey the order and die. The president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company looked at the Dragon Palace and shouted coldly. Die? Hee, I disobeyed. What can you do to me? Wang Xian looked at the president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the flirtatious Divine Gate, Lei Beichen, Lei Tianming, and the rest with a cold expression on his face. Are you qualified to order them? The 4 streams of energy entered the demon caverns and a terrifying explosion was heard. In less than a second, furious roars were heard from the demon cave. It sounded like the roars of millions of demonic beasts. 4 demon caves. Isn't it better to deal with them together? When Wang Xian heard the roars from the demon cave, a smile appeared on his face. Damn it, Dragon Palace, just you wait. The leader of the demonic god sect's face turned cold as he shouted sternly. Prepare to face the enemy. After saying that, he shouted loudly. At this moment, it was obviously not the time for internal strife. All the factions held their weapons tightly with an embarrassed look on their faces as they waited for Yaoxia to charge out from the demon cave. This Dragon King is really arrogant. Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming looked at each other with an embarrassed look on their faces. Once they fought together, with the Dragon Palace's terrifying combat strength and teamwork, they would definitely be able to kill as many demons as the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the others. Roar, roar, roar. Before anyone could think further, numerous blood-red eyes appeared in the demon cave, densely packed together. Chirp, chirp, chirp. At this moment, a sharp cry came from one of the demon caves, and it was different from the other demon caves. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the next moment, tens of thousands of demons with huge bone wings and sharp heads rushed out. Behind them, numerous demons of the same type followed. Soon after, tens of thousands of demons rushed out from the other 4 demon caves and charged at them. Prepare for battle. The Elder of Light shouted loudly. All the disciples immediately gripped their weapons tightly. The Northern Expedition Trading Company and the Enchanting Divine Sect, who were located in the center, were the first to face the attacks of the evildoers. They immediately released streams of energy. Prepare for battle. Wang Xian ordered the disciples of the Dragon Palace. Yes. As usual, they used the Saturn Turtle to defend the front. Each and every one of them was floating in the sky like a moving fortress, waiting for the evildoers who were charging towards them. Chirp, chirp. At this moment, an ear-piercing screech filled with violence suddenly resounded through the void. A flying Yao Xie that was at least 10,000 meters in size flew out from the demon cave. Peak Deity Realm. A Peak Deity Realm Yao Xie has appeared. Yao Xie, who was at the Peak Deity Realm, directly attacked them. Everyone's expression changed slightly as they cried out in fear. Let me do it. A hint of solemnity appeared on the face of the Elder of Light. He shouted in a deep voice and immediately went forward to welcome them. At least 1 billion Yao Xie have come out. There are so many of them. Wang Xian looked into the demon cave with a solemn expression on his face. His yin-yang and 5 elements dragon eyes stared at the demon cave. Once there were 7 or 8 or even more peak of the godly state Yao Xie, he would leave this place with the members of the Dragon Palace without hesitation. Dragon King, with our strength, we shouldn't be in too much danger. This is the counterattack plan that Eternal Thunderclap came up with after a detailed investigation. Lei Dongxue said to Wang Xian from the side. Okay. Wang Xian nodded. He didn't make a move and stood quietly behind the Dragon Palace. With the strength of the Dragon Palace, it shouldn't be too much of a problem to fight against a demon lair alone. However, it was better to be safe than sorry. He couldn't listen to the arrangements of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. Kill, kill, kill. Violent sounds of fighting could be heard from the surroundings. Nearly 100 deity realm demons rushed out from each demon cave. The gods of the Northern Territory Alliance immediately went up to fight them. It seemed as if endless demons were rushing out from the demon caves. Roar! Roar! At this moment, roars that shook the sky came from the other 2 demon caves. There are 2 more peak god realm evil spirits. The eyes of the president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the leader of the Charming God sect narrowed. President of the Trading Company, see if you can send 1 evil spirit to the Dragon Palace and let them know the consequences of disobeying orders. At this moment, Lei Beichen suddenly said when he saw the Dragon Palace crazily hunting the demon. Chapter 2136. 2136 lured them away. That's right. They dare to disobey our orders and make them pay. Lei Tianming's expression was slightly malevolent as he echoed Lei Beichen. The Dragon King disobeyed their orders and caused this situation. This made them hold a grudge. They must make the Dragon Palace know the consequences of disobeying their orders. If they could lure a peak god-level demonic beast to their position, they would definitely cause the Dragon Palace to suffer a huge loss. Huh. The president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company raised his eyebrows and stared at the peak god-level demonic beast flying toward the battlefield, his eyes shining. Leave it to me, I have an idea. The leader of the Charming God sect suddenly said with a cunning look on his face. Oh, the seductive Divine Gate leader has an idea? If that's the case, let the Dragon Palace put in more effort, hee. The leader of the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce said with a smile. Just watch. The seductive Divine Gate leader smiled faintly. He waved his arm and a long spear appeared in his hand. Spear like a dragon. He growled and a metal attribute light directly attacked the peak stage god-level demonic beast. Roar. Yao Xie waved his terrifying tail and swept toward the metal spear. Bang. The metal spear shattered, and his blood-red eyes locked onto the gate master. With a roar, Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state, charged toward him. Swoosh! The gate master moved and flew toward the sky above the Dragon Palace. It was only 100 kilometers away from the Dragon Palace, which was very close to the peak of the godly state. Clang! 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 While flying, he attacked the peak of the godly state Yao Xie with his long spear. Yao Xie chased after him, and black flames shot toward him. Swoosh! When they were about to reach the sky above the Dragon Palace, the leader moved his hand, and a bright dark divine pearl appeared in his hand. The divine darkness pearl emitted a dark luster and looked like a black gem. He waved his arm and the divine darkness pearl directly floated 10,000 meters above the Dragon Palace. Such a position was already within the range of attack for Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state. Roar, roar! As expected, when Yao Xie saw the divine darkness pearl, his blood-red eyes revealed a greedy look. He swayed his huge body and charged forward. That's right. The divine darkness pearl has a fatal attraction to Yao Xie. The Dragon Palace is going to suffer. Even if we gather the entire Dragon Palace's strength, it will be difficult to kill that peak god realm Yao Xie. I'll go deal with the other peak god realm Yao Xie. The president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company smiled when he saw this scene. As he spoke, his gaze locked onto another demon at the peak of the godly state and he charged straight at it. Hee, Dragon Palace? Dragon King? Soon, you will know the consequences of disobeying orders. Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming's lips curled up slightly as they looked on with smiles on their faces. At this moment, Wang Xian, who was floating behind the Dragon Palace, saw the leader of the demonic god sect charging over with a demon at the peak of the godly state. He even threw a divine darkness pearl to the sky above the members of the Dragon Palace. He narrowed his eyes slightly. Let the Dragon Palace deal with this demon. Consider it your punishment for disobeying orders. The enchanting divine sect leader was floating 10,000 meters above the divine darkness pearl. When he saw the demon opening its mouth and swallowing the divine pearl, he said with a cold smile, "Go down." At the same time, the long spear in his hand pointed toward the demonic beast below. A golden glow seemed to pierce through the void as it attacked the demonic beast directly. Once it hit, the demonic beast would fall toward the ground below. Below it was the position of the members of the Dragon Palace. You are courting death. When Wang Xian saw this scene, a strong murderous intent shot out from his face. Crash! The uninitiated holy wings appeared directly behind him. The 5 elements grinding mill slowly appeared above his head. When the demonic beast saw the attack from the leader of the demonic faction, it let out a furious roar. Its sharp tail went straight for the golden glow. Buzz! A muffled sound of collision rang out. A dot of golden glow dissipated and the sharp tail continued to attack him. Get lost! He roared angrily, and the long spear in his hand shook out streaks of golden light. In a short second, hundreds of thousands of golden lights appeared, densely covering Yao Xie. He had used all of his strength in this attack. He was confident that Yao Xie would fall heavily downwards. Buzz! However, just as he had just finished performing this move, an intense sense of danger enveloped his heart. At this moment, his heart seemed to have stopped beating, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Not good. Someone had launched a sneak attack. This was his first reaction. You want to harm our Dragon Palace? A cold voice entered his ears, and a blood-red longsword slashed toward him from top to bottom. Damn it, how could it be him? His expression changed drastically, and he quickly dodged to the side. He did not expect that someone would sneak attack him at this time. He did not expect that the Dragon King could actually bring him a sense of threat of death. He had just performed a move, and he did not expect it at all. A heart-wrenching pain spread throughout his body. He felt as if his body had been cut into 2. His face was filled with horror as he let out a miserable cry. His entire body shot out a terrifying golden light as he dodged to the side. At this moment he heard the roar of Yao Xie coming from below. Consider yourself lucky. The Dragon King's voice resounded in his mind once again. He looked over and saw the Dragon King heading towards Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state, to attack him. The charming sect master, who had flown 50 kilometers away in an instant, felt a chill run down his spine. Through his spiritual senses, he found that 1/3 of his body had been cut off from his ear all the way to his shoulder. His bloody body made him look extremely miserable. If he was not a peak stage godly state expert, this attack would have caused him to lose 50% of his combat strength. Even so, he was still severely injured. Damn it, Dragon King, you are actually an expert at the peak of the godly state. He roared furiously. The bloody flesh that had been cut off began to squirm and slowly began to recover. However, the energy required for the body to recover was very huge. What happened? Just now, leader Yao Yi brought a peak godly state Yao Xie to the Dragon Palace, but he was ambushed and severely injured by the Dragon King. The Dragon King is also a peak godly state expert. Leader Yao Yi was seriously injured. Some people around were slightly shocked. How is this possible? The Dragon King. The Dragon King is also a peak godly state expert. At this moment, Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming, who had been paying attention to the situation, looked extremely embarrassed. Chapter 2137. 2137, who was at the peak of the godly state, had fallen. You have ulterior motives. Do you still want to harm our Dragon Palace? Wang Xian controlled the 5 elements millstone to withstand the attack of Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state. With a cold expression, he swept his gaze across the bewitching sect leader, Northern Expedition Trading Company, Lei Beichen, Lei Tianming, and the rest. Then he growled in a low voice. Dragon King. The bewitching sect leader's body was trembling slightly. His expression was extremely ugly. He was roaring in his heart and was filled with killing intent. However, when he saw Wang Xian easily resisting Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state, a hint of fear flashed across his eyes. The Dragon King was at the peak of the godly state. The strength of the entire Dragon Palace was already stronger than the flirtatious sect. That Dragon King is in existence at the peak of the godly state. The president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, who was fighting with a peak of the godly state, swept his gaze over and immediately frowned. A Dragon Palace with a peak stage godly state expert was a completely different concept from a Dragon Palace without a peak stage godly state expert. With a peak stage expert in charge, even the Northern Expedition Trading Company had to attach great importance to it. Kill! Wang Xian let out a cold roar and a cold murderous aura spread out in all directions. This murderous aura was not only to face the demonic evil in front of him, but also to show off his strength to the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the demonic god sect. It also let them know that not everyone in the Dragon Palace could give orders. Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state, stared at Wang Xian with her blood-red eyes. She waved her huge and ferocious claws and attacked him. Let's test my current strength too. Wang Xian smiled wantonly. He stared at Yao Xie's claws without any fear. He raised his right palm. But his entire right arm turned into a dragon claw that was more than 1,000 meters in size. Dragon Nation in the palm. He shouted softly. The 1,000-meter-sized claw instantly expanded to a size of 100,000 meters. It blotted out the sky and the sun, completely blotting out the sun. Even Yao Xie's terrifying figure appeared extremely tiny in front of Wang Xian's dragon claw. A palm strike struck down and a terrifying vibration was emitted. The surrounding air currents surged violently. Under this terrifying force, the demonic evil was sent flying backward. It has been a long time since I used a Dharma idol like the Dragon Nation in my palm. It seems that as my strength has increased, my Dharma idol has also received a huge boost. Wang Xian smiled faintly. He was floating in midair with a dragon claw on his arm that was 100,000 meters long. He looked extremely tiny. However, he was floating in midair with his arm at the side. He looked extremely shocking. This Dragon King's strength is so terrifying. What kind of claw is that? Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming, who had been watching this scene from the side, narrowed their eyes when they saw this scene. Their faces were filled with shock. So powerful! Even the leader of the enchanting god sect looked over with a grave expression. Roar! However, at this moment, a roar sounded from the last demon cave, causing the leader of the enchanting god sect to change his expression slightly. He hurriedly looked over, and when he saw another peak deity realm demonic beast appear, his expression changed slightly. A demon cave and a peak deity realm demonic beast. His gaze swept across the surroundings. Two peak of the godly state from the Northern Expedition Trading Company were fighting against the other two peak of the godly state demons. At this moment, he could only make his move. Feeling his weak body, he gritted his teeth and attacked the demon directly. Roar! In the air, the peak of the godly state demon that was sent flying by Wang Xian let out a ferocious roar as it swayed its huge tail slightly. His entire tail was exuding a terrifying demonic flame. Roar! He let out a furious roar and his tail grew longer. He swept his tail at Wang Xian. Bang! Wang Xian waved his dragon claw. The glow of the yin and yang poles on it flickered and collided with it again. Another dull collision sounded. A long bloody scar appeared on Wang Xian's dragon claw. Prep. He clenched his dragon claw tightly and threw a punch. There was another collision. This time, the furious Yao Xie opened his huge mouth and bit on the dragon claw. Wang Xian's dragon claw was bleeding profusely. However, more than a dozen of Yao Xie's sharp teeth had been shaken off. The terrifying battle filled a radius of tens of millions of kilometers. Meteorites were shattered and fresh blood splattered everywhere. On the side, Eternal Thunderclap's 5 thunder gods were fighting against 6 peak deity realm Yao Xie. The remaining few million disciples were fighting against the rest of Yao Xie. Compared to this side, their side was equally miserable. Although Eternal Thunderclap's 2 to 3 million disciples maintained their formation to attack, they were still a few million fewer than the Northern Territory Alliance. Faced with 1 billion or even 2 to 3 billion Yao Xie, people died every second. The Dragon Palace has long-range, close-range, defense, and support. They've lost so little on such a cruel battlefield. Moreover, the number of demons they've killed is increasing at a terrifying speed. In the future, the number of demons killed by the disciples of the Northern Expedition Trading Company might not even be as many as theirs. Lei Beichen and the others looked in the direction of the Dragon Palace, their faces full of embarrassment. The formation was complete, and the Dragon Palace, with its heaven-defying coordination, suffered little losses. They had killed many evildoers. This made them somewhat angry. The two of them working together were actually inferior to the Dragon Palace. Let's attack as well. Looking at the densely packed evildoers around them, Lei Beichen, Lei Tianming, and the others also entered the battlefield, wantonly slaughtering them. The roars continued, and corpses slowly floated in the air. There were demons and humans. In half an hour, the number of demons had decreased by 2/3. As for the Northern Territory Alliance and Eternal Thunderclap, they had lost at least 1/3 of their numbers. 7-element space, die. 1,000,000 meters above the Dragon Palace, the 5 elements millstone was suspended in the sky above Yao Xie. The poles of yin and yang were located below. After fighting for half an hour, a few wounds appeared on Wang Xian's body. At this moment, Wang Xian seized the opportunity to use the 7 luminary space. A short kill move. Phew, it's finally over. He heaved a sigh of relief. All kinds of energy landed on Yao Xie and killed him completely. Die. On the other side, the president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company shouted. Sharp bamboos shot out from the bamboo hat on his head. The bamboos were extremely sharp. Hundreds of thousands of bamboos stabbed into the body of Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state. He had also killed Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state. When he heaved a sigh of relief, his eyes flickered when he saw that Wang Xian had killed Yao Xie even earlier than him. "Come and help me, help me." At this moment, the voice of the leader of the demonic faction suddenly rang out, attracting everyone's attention. "Leader!" When the God Realm experts and disciples of the seductive God sect saw the miserable state of their leader's body, their expressions changed slightly. On his body, 2 of his legs were completely cut off. He did not even have time to recover. He was only relying on his body to fight. Yao Xie in front of him was completely suppressing him. If this continued, he might die. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.